I'll do it. Zion Lexx exposes Lashawan Qadash. We're gonna talk about the Messiah and Jewish identity, y'all. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's give all praise to the Most High, in the name of His only begotten Son. We're gonna talk about it tonight, y'all. Is it Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahuwah, Yahweh? Yod Hey Wav Hey? Is it Yeshua, Yahushua, Yehoshua? We're gonna talk about some things tonight, y'all, and our brothers' transitioning journey from being an Old Testament only to now believing in the Messiah. His worldview and ideologies on the Jewish community. Are they our brothers? Are they converts, proselytes? We're gonna talk about it all today, y'all. We're gonna get him on here in just a second. Look at this stupid comment.
We don't even gotta. It's all good. We don't gotta address it, but it's extremely important, everybody, that we know the name of the Most High. And this is not going to be a slight to anybody that, because I know there's some brothers who pronounce the Most High's name Yehovah, or they'll say Yahweh. I think the consensus is pretty clear. I guess Zion Lexx can give some more insight on it. At least they all start with Yah. We know for sure that the Most High's name starts with Yah. So if some brothers call the Most High, as the psalmist did in Psalm 68, verse 4, Yah, then, if the psalmist can do it, I don't see how it would be unacceptable for us to, in turn, do so. But there's too many times, you guys, where because of the minor differences, or even some might consider major differences that we have, that we're unable to have these good conversations and, at least hear the other perspective and learn. And so we want to make this an opportunity for the brother to share his perspective, see how he got there, and then we can build from there. I want to read a couple of scriptures, though. This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 58. It says, "If you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord your God," the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He. If you don't fear that name, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues. So there is a reverence and like I said, a reverence. There is a fear and a respect that we need to have for the Heavenly Father's name. Now, somebody asked me not too long ago, so are you saying the Most High's name is Yod He Vav He? No, those are the characters. It'd be like if someone's name, if I was saying, instead of saying Josh or Paul, I said Paul, based on, and maybe some people say Paul or Paul, or you know what I mean? So that's what we're going to discuss. The Tetragrammaton is what it's also referred to as, the 4 letters, YHWH, as it's transliterated, of course, in English. So all praise to the Most High. We're also going to be discussing the Messiah, whom some refer to as Jesus, some call Yeshua, some call, Yahushua. And so we're going to discuss the Messiah and, the brother Zion Lexx's journey from being non-messianic to accepting the Messiah. And then we're also going to be discussing those people who put on the little hats and they say that they're Yid. We're going to be discussing them as well. So those are going to be the 3 main topics that we cover. If y'all have any questions for the brother Zion Lexx, then y'all can definitely shoot y'all questions. I believe that he would like to, be as
here the format will be as such. We'll ask him. We'll be asking him questions that we have, and we'll be taking some questions from the chat. Then he'll do a presentation on all 3 of these things, a short presentation on all 3 of these topics. Then we'll open it up for you guys to come on here and talk with him and ask him some questions as well. So all praises to the Most High for that. I'm going to get this shared. I sent the brother the link to his text message. So I'm going to pull up a couple things as we get ready for him to join the stream.
Okay. Well, I know also too, you guys, because I asked the brother Zion Lexx if if he could tell me live what the proper enunciation, or what he believes to be the proper enunciation of the Most High's name is. And so I'm sure some of you guys are going to be asking that same question because of his stance in regards to not saying the name openly, because it doesn't want people to take the name and then blaspheme it or mock it. Don't ask that question. I would like to know his perspective on it. I've yet to have that conversation with him, but I'm sure that's going to be a reoccurring theme. But just to kind of reiterate what I said earlier, There's a video this kind of leads to what I was gonna ask you, Priest, about that video that I sent you about the Native Americans and their enunciation of the Tetragrammaton, and they pronounce the H with a little bit more of a O as opposed to how we would say Yahweh, right? They'd say Yehovah, which in a nutshell is very similar. And I don't think it's enough to, oh, I don't like you because you say it with a little bit more of a OA than an AA. Imagine all hell breaks loose and there's a brother over there, and there's bombs, explosions behind you, buildings are on fire, the sky's falling, and all of a sudden you see a brother to your left or you see a brother to your right, and he says, "Hey, shalom, brother, get inside." And then you guys are having a conversation. He says, "Do you believe in?" And then he says the name a little different than you, and you're going to say, "Oh, get the hell out of here." Come on. So somebody said, what about the name Yahweh being on the Moabite song? So that would be what the contention is whether or not Yod He Vav He is the correct pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton. So we got our brother Zion Lexx on here. Peace, brother. Mic check.
Check. Check one.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. What's going on?
We're good.
All right, be sharing my screen in a couple of moments, gentlemen, but continue doing what you're doing. I know the show needs to start, but I'm just tidying up something real quick behind the scenes.
You're good. Almost time. Yeah, I also want to make this disclaimer too. We are interested on building with our brother Dr. Divine Prospect and Zion Lexx and a few other brothers who would be outside of the One West persuasion. And so this isn't, if you came to see us try to tear him down or tear us down, it's the wrong channel. You got to go to World Star Hip Hop for that. We're here building on commonalities and also things that One West may be interested in as far as his worldviews go with the Bible and linguistics and all of that. So this is what it's about here, family. Building with our brothers, bridging gaps, and creating this space to where we're not at each other's necks. You understand that? So yeah, we definitely are obliged to have our brother on here to pop this corn and put butter all over it. All praise to the Most High. All right, so the format is going to be, we'll ask some questions that we have pursuant to the language, the Messiah, the Jewish identity. Then the brother will present a presentation, and then we'll open it up for the callers. All praise to the Most High. What's going on with my dear beloved brother Zion, man? What's going on, King?
I'm good. Shabbat shalom to both of you brothers. I want to say shalom to the whole family, the whole community. I hope everybody's doing well. It's an honor to grace the stage with you brothers. I've been watching you, Priest Hakar Deacon, for the longest. I think since as early as 2017, 2016 is when I first, had awareness of you. And then the young brother, the young brother Hassad. One of the things that keeps a person sharp is to always have their eyes on who's that next person. And I think one of the gifts that I may have, if I have a gift, is I'm always able to spot talent. And so, I grow each year exponentially because I'm willing to listen to my brothers. You having a difference of opinion with various topics from me doesn't stop me from seeing wisdom dwelling with you. I know that at times, some of us may be hard to convince, like myself. And so we may not catch on until later, and vice versa. It can work both ways. But I say that to say that if I attribute any gift to myself, I've grown exponentially over the years because I listen to everybody. And the young phenom is what I'm going to call him. The young brother Hassad is definitely somebody I enjoy listening to. I enjoy his debate skills, his debate tactics. The debater in me said, damn, I want to smoke with him. I just want to create.
Yeah, we got to find something to disagree on, huh?
I want to find something to disagree with. I like him. But all jokes aside, man, big salute to both of you brothers. Big shout out to this platform. I applaud you brothers moving in the spirit of the Lord. When change is needed. You guys became the change that the community needed to see. You guys saw the environment that you were, you assessed it, and you realized, nah, this can't be it. And you made that step. And I got to tell you, I did that myself. In 2015-ish, going into 2016, I separated myself from the congregation that bred and raised me since the year 1994. It was a hard separation because I had a love for them. I had a lot of love for them. But when I was going through it with Hashar and Priest Daniela, who, by the way, we're cool as hell, we're friends today. But when I was going at it with them, my congregation allowed them to shoot a diss video in the congregation against me. I said, what's this? You let the op shoot a diss video? So, you know, I love and respect my brothers from Shema Israel. But as far as I stand, I could never, I don't want to say forgive, but I could never forget certain things. And one thing you never do, you never do, you'll never let the ops come through the home base and shoot a diss video against somebody you love and respect. So I relate with you guys for more reasons than one. And I'm looking forward to having a powerful show.
Listen, that was just like when Richard Sherman ate Thanksgiving turkey leg on the San Francisco 49ers 50-yard line that year. That was crazy, the ultimate disrespect. You know, all praises.
I could tell you, man, I'm the type of person, I lay my life for my brothers when I believe that the same is expected. And even if I believe that one of my brothers is unable to do the same because they don't have the heart or the physical strength, then I'll still be willing to lay down my life. But what I can't do is deal with people that have shown me disloyalty. There's certain things that we can forgive because we are sons of the Creator, but because we are intelligent human beings, we should never forget.
Well, you know what they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
That's right.
And we definitely
again. What is but you can't get fooled again.
That's right.
Hey, at the end of the day, one day you got to turn around and realize there's a leg kicking you in your ass and move out the way. You know,
that's a fact. That's a fact.
All right, so we'll get this started. Hassad, you go ahead. Let's delve off into some of the questions about the language.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, contrasting Lashawan Qadash with biblical Hebrew. I know. Let me ask this first question, because the biblical Hebrew, and you can ask your Tetragrammaton question after. The biblical Hebrew. When we say biblical Hebrew, are we talking about the dating in which the manuscripts are, or the time period? What do they call it? The Iron Age, the Mosaic time period, the Mosaic era.
I'm sorry. My apologies. I was off a little bit. Could you just rephrase that question? My apologies, priest.
Yeah, when we talk about biblical Hebrew, are we saying biblical Hebrew as in the time period in which the language, you know, the ancient manuscripts were composed, or are we saying biblical Hebrew as in the time period of Moses and, you know, Joshua and that era?
Good question. So biblical Hebrew is the period of Moses. It's also the period of when the manuscripts are being drafted, because biblical Hebrew essentially is a language first. Scripts change, right? We can use English to represent a number of scripts. In the era of the Amarna period in ancient Egypt, when you had pharaohs sitting on a throne like Akhenaten, that's the Amarna period in Egypt. That's also the time of the time period where Joshua is conquering the land. So as Joshua is conquering the land, the Canaanites are writing a series of letters to the Egyptian king, asking for help, asking for artillery. Those are known as the Amarna letters. And the Amarna letters are written in cuneiform, but the language is Egyptian, it's Medu Neter. So it's not a new thing or innovation or phenomena that a script could represent several languages. So I say that to say, oftentimes we hear or have heard in our community that the Paleo is a different vernacular. It sounds different. It looks different. Yeah, it looks aesthetically different from what we call the block characters, or what's called in academia Kitav Ashurit. Yeah, that looks different, but the sound is exactly the same. It's the same sound. And we can compare and contrast through ancient inscriptions, ancient correspondence between nations. So There's a king, and I'm going to demonstrate this later. There's a king in Egypt by the name of Merneptah. He lies on a big stone slab or tablet and says that he marched into the land of Israel and he wiped out every single one of the children of Israel. He said he left no seed behind. He killed everybody. The year is 1205 BC. It's known as the Merneptah Stela. He records our name, Israel. And guess what he don't pronounce it as? Yasharallah. He literally writes in the Medu Neter, Yisrael. And I'm going to show you guys that. I'm a Medu Neter teacher. So I'm going to show you the Medu Neter glyphs and how in the ancient world, when a nation wanted to represent the names of other nations, foreign nations, they did not translate the names into their own tongues. They transliterated it. By doing so, that retained the essence of whatever that name was in terms of its pronunciation. So while the language of the Merneptah Stela is absolutely Medu Neter, when they translated names, it's always in the vernacular of the people they're speaking of. So our name is Israel. In the Merneptah Stela, we are literally called Yisrael. There's no Jewish man. There's no Yiddish. There's no Khazars. So we got to explain that intelligently.
So I definitely hold on. I definitely have, because I want to make sure that what I'm retaining is, where is it at? So in Revelation 16, it talks about, because you said the names are transliterated. Where is that at in Revelation 16, Assad? About where it says in the different tongues he has a different name.
I don't remember.
Apollyon. Where's that at? What verse is that?
It's called Apollyon. It's Revelation 9:11. But in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my screen up real quick because that is that a law as far as when names go is transliterated? Because in Revelation 9:11, if you can see, it says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue had his name Apollyon.
Facts. So even in the Greek Septuagint, the name that we pronounce as Yeshua is a transliteration, Isis, in the Greek Septuagint. It's a transliteration of Yeshua, not a transliteration of Yahusha, not a transliteration of Yehoshua, but literally a transliteration of Yeshua. So you find that very, very current. The name that you mentioned, Abaddon, that's literally a Hebrew word, and it's retained in that transliteration. So the beautiful thing about transliteration is that it captures the essence of the spoken word, the way in which the people originally spoke it. So again, using my example of the Merneptah Stela and even using the examples of the Amarna letters, it captures how language was spoken. So some of the Canaanite kings in the Amarna letters, they actually have biblical names. There's a guy that's identifying in there as being Abram. We know he's not Abraham, but he's calling himself Abram. In the Canaanite letters, there's a guy that calls himself Joshua. This is not the biblical Joshua, but it's a Canaanite named Joshua. And he literally pronounces it Yehosha, Yehosha. Not Yehoshua, but Yehosha. But listen to the Ye-ho-eh-o. It's there. And that's Canaanite vernacular. Canaanite language is one and the same with Hebrew. So I'm saying that now to say this. It's very, very important that all of us realize that our elders that were before us were able to carry us, but so far. Where we fail is thinking that everything that they had is right. There's an idea in West Africa, a West African proverb that's called Sankofa. Sankofa is about drawing back to the past to extrapolate those things that are good, wise, and necessary, adding corrections to them if need be, and bringing the sum total of all that wisdom into the future present so that the culture can forward propel. But the idea is you look back, assess the information. What did the elders have that was good? What did the elders have that is problematic or wrong? Add those corrections so that their legacy is not tarnished, correct their work so their legacy is not tarnished, and then move into the future. What we do is people realize the elders are wrong and continue in the error, and in some cases, continue in the lie. Because certain things are a lie, and then there are things that are in error.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So just to move on to, before we move on to Hassan's question about the Tetragrammaton, is this right here in Revelation 9 and 11, is this an example of where a name is not being transliterated and is being translated, or what's going on exactly?
Yeah, it's a great example. It's a great example of a word not being translated per se, but being transliterated, where it's capturing the pronunciation. The letters P and B, they're linguistically interchangeable because they're considered labial letters. You got to use your lips to pronounce them. So in linguistics, you could substitute a P for a B. So saying Apollyon or Apadon is no different than saying Abaddon in terms of linguistics and language. Capturing something else in the New Testament. We all know that one of the most famous sayings of Yeshua, unfortunately, is his dying hour as he's on the cross, right? Eli, Eli, Shabachthani, right? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Eli, Eli, ma Shabachthani. Now, most people know that when a person is in pain and they speak more than one language, they'll always express that pain in their first language. So for instance, I'll give everybody an example, not to be humorous, but this is straight facts. We're walking down the street with a couple of our brothers from Ephraim, right? I know in the One West communities, we say the Northern Kingdom, the Northern tribes, Spanish brothers, Puerto Rican, Ephraim, right? So let's say you're walking down the street with a bunch of Puerto Rican brothers, or maybe it's also some Dominican brothers, and everybody's speaking English. But then boom, somebody, stump their toe or somebody gets hit. Immediately you'll hear that person call out in their native tongue and will express that pain. When we speak more than one language, raw emotion, raw passion always forces us to revert back to our original language. Where am I going with this? The New Testament Gospels in Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, all three agree, and the Greek leaves it untranslated. They keep it in the original Hebrew Aramaic. It says, Eli, Eli, lama Shabachthani. Well, maybe if you're not familiar with Psalms 22 in Hebrew, you may not have seen what just happened there. In Psalms 22, we know that's where this statement is first recorded. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? This is David. But David doesn't say Shabachthani. David says Azaftani. That's the Hebrew way of saying forsaken me. Yeshua speaks it in Aramaic, Shabachthani. What is that telling you? Yeshua clearly spoke Aramaic as everybody in that era. Was he able to speak Hebrew? Absolutely. But was Aramaic the lingua franca of the first century Common Era, meaning the spoken language for the majority of the people? Absolutely. So that means in the Greek Septuagint, in the Hebrew manuscripts, in the Aramaic manuscripts, they all leave the word Shabachthani, which is the Aramaic way of saying forsake me. Even when Yeshua says, call no man father, he doesn't say Av. Even the Greek Septuagint records Abba, which is how you say father in Aramaic. In the Israelite community, some people that know a little bit about Hebrew, we're greeting our fathers and we're saying Abba. And I don't have a problem with it because Aramaic is the last language we spoke as a people group. It's the last language that we spoke as a people group. So I don't mind that. But I always tell people that Hebrew way of saying father is Av. And the Hebrew way of saying mother is Aim. But when you're saying in Aramaic, it's Abba. And when you're saying mother in Aramaic, it's Ima. So to sum up what I'm saying now, Yeshua's words on the cross, along with several other sayings of his, are proof that the lingua franca of the first century Common Era is Aramaic. But more importantly, we know for a fact that he spoke Aramaic. And here's where things become really important. Yeshua is the Aramaic way to say Yehoshua, which is the Hebrew name. That's important. So that's why we stress that we say Yeshua. That's why and also I'll add this. If you're really knee deep in Hebrew grammar, you'll see why Aramaic is really the name of the Messiah as opposed to saying it the Hebrew way. The Hebrew way has the definition as Yah shall save. Yeshua is not saying Yah shall save. Yeshua is saying he shall save. Go back to Matthew. It says he was given this name because he shall save his people from their sins. It never said he was given this name because Yah shall save his people. I want everybody to pull up the book of Matthew. You could possibly even pull it up right now live, or I'll do it as well. It literally says in Matthew 1:21 that he was given this name because he shall save his people from their sins. Well, that definition alone automatically tells you it has to be Yeshua. And these are the things people miss because most of us aren't trained in the language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matthew 1:21, and he shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins, explaining what the name means.
Exactly.
Okay. So before I give it to you, Hassan, because the brother keeps saying stuff that has just got my mind jogging. I'll just say these two things. I'll be precise and concise. Two questions, brother Zion Lexx, and then I know Hassan is eager as well. When we read the New Testament, it says John 5:2, he spoke in the Hebrew tongue. John 19:13, he spoke in the Hebrew. John 19:17 in the Hebrew, in the Hebrew, in the Hebrew, in the Hebrew. A lot of times it talks about him speaking in the Hebrew. And so just can you speak to that when it's saying when he's talking, he speaks in the Hebrew, although we do see the Aramaic on the cross. But I believe most of the examples we'll find when it says he spoke or they spoke, we'll see Hebrew. If you could speak to that. And then why do sources say Koine Greek was the lingua franca of the first century? Just those two things.
Okay, I'd be curious to see what sources say Koine Greek was the lingua franca of the first century, because I know it's a scholarly consensus, and I can provide citations that Aramaic is the lingua franca, meaning the widely used and spoken language of the first century Common Era. I haven't come across any source that said that it was Koine Greek. Koine Greek was certainly used by those who were more educated, but not everybody in that area was as educated. And I'm not just focusing on the Israelites, I'm also speaking about the Gentile world. So the lingua franca was Aramaic because we have been speaking Aramaic since the Persian captivity. That's evidence in the book of Daniel, where from Daniel 2, verse 4, all the way to Daniel chapter 8, it's entirely in Aramaic. The book of Nehemiah has entire portions in Aramaic. The book of Ezra has entire portions in Aramaic, and we're in the Persian captivity. So beginning in the Persian captivity, our people are utilizing Aramaic. That comes all the way down to the era of Yeshua, where now it's impacted much of what is today called the Middle East. And the vast majority of that region is using Aramaic. And because Greeks need to speak to us, they're interchanging, speaking to us in both Aramaic as well as Greek. So the more educated among us who could afford to learn also Greek, they were able to speak both Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. But for the most part, the majority of the peoples that are native to that region that are non-Gentile, non-Greek, they spoke Aramaic.
Okay. So that's
yes.
So that's what you mean when you say that Aramaic was the lingua franca. That's the primary language that our people were using in the first.
Yes. So to speak to your question now about the occurrences where it says in the New Testament that he spoke this in the Hebrew, I think that that's a perfect representation that he spoke Aramaic. And let me explain why. If everything that Yeshua spoke is in Hebrew, then why would they need to say at various junctions, he spoke this in the Hebrew? He spoke this in the Hebrew. You would only need to say that if he is reverting from something he is speaking that is not Hebrew. I'll explain even deeper. If I'm speaking entirely in Spanish, but then I speak Hebrew, and a writer is recording this, then at various junctions when I shift, the writer will note, and he said that in Hebrew, and he said that in Hebrew. The mere fact that the New Testament records not every word spoken by him is Hebrew, but at various junctions he spoke Hebrew, the New Testament is already inferring that he spoke Aramaic primarily.
That's a good point. All right, Hassan, I'll hand it over to you for the next question.
There was a few that I wanted to ask, but I kind of want to go to the because you mentioned being in the prior organization you were with since 1994. So just to kind of like backgrounds on you, Brother Zion, when did you, I guess you find out you were an Israelite? And then the second part of that, and there's some more, but these two parts would be, when did you find out you were an Israelite? And then when did you become proficient in biblical Hebrew?
Good question. So I awakened to these truths in February 1994. I remember that exact date and time because I had got locked up that same week. I was in February of 1994, 14 and a half. I'm about to turn 15 later on that year. I know some of y'all are laughing, damn, Zion's old. But yeah, so in February of 1994, I'm still 14 years old. I'm born in 1979. And so I have three close friends of mine that came up in the streets of East Flatbush, Brooklyn. Their names are Kemuel Ben Yehuda, Benahu Ben Yehuda, and Akiva Ben Yehuda, all sons of a great man in my community known as Crown Prince Zeri Shaddai Ben Yehuda, who comes from a very old Israelite congregation, which is also very respected by the eldership at One West. And that congregation is called Bnei Zakin. Bnei Zakin was known as the gangster camp because the leader of Bnei Zakin is Nasi Yaakov, and he came out of Chicago. And he was the mentor of Jeff Fort, who was the head of what's called the El Rukins. For those who are familiar with, Chicago gangland and Chicago gang culture. Yeah. So my elders came out of that roughneck Israelite culture, but their teachers, interestingly, is actually from the Rabbi Matthews community. So that's going back to 1999. So by the year 1995, I'm taking Hebrew classes at the congregation that I would be known as being produced or coming from, which is Shema Israel. In 1994, I was a part of Beth Av Shalom, which, if anybody that knows Brooklyn, that's the 90s, right? That's the 90s Brooklyn. We're talking about Clarkson, Lenox Road. For those who know Brooklyn, that's the 90s. That's Buckshot Shorty. For those who know Brooklyn are rappers, that's Boot Camp Click. We're talking about the 90s era. So in that area, I'm in a congregation called Beth Ab Shalom. I stayed there for almost a full year. In the summer of 1995, Shema Israel opens, headed by, you might remember him, Nasi Yashavel.
The one with those allegations? The one with those allegations? Okay.
Yeah. Nasi Yashavel is the dude that went up against SETI. First, right? Before Kemet on trial. And Nasi Yashavel and myself were born the same year, 1979. He's born in July. I'm born in November. But we were very, very close coming up. We know each other since we're both 14 and 15. His father was the head of Shema Israel and is still the head of Shema Israel. And we were all young teachers, a part of an organization within our camp called SOG, which is an acronym that stood for Sons of God. So SOG was formed in late 95, early 96. We wrote newspapers. Our newspapers traveled to Rikers Island, etc. But it's in 95 that I'm learning Hebrew, a part of the Hebrew class of Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naphtali. That's the elder that people see on video saying, nah, Pop, that's the hook. That chart ain't right. All the people that sharing that video of an old Israelite elder saying that the chart was made up and Abba Bibbins knows it. That's my teacher. That's Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naphtali. He's also from Bnei Zakin. So I'm in his Hebrew class in 1995.
Hey, broke up. Is it
That's him. That's him.
Okay. We'll wait for the brother to get back on.
Letting them know that he had taught me Hebrew. He was one of my first Hebrew teachers.
You cut out for like probably 15 seconds.
Okay.
When you said that's my teacher, then you cut out after that.
All right. So so that elder that everybody's been sharing the video where it says, the one West 12 tribes chart exposed, elder exposes chart, that's actually my teacher. We call him in my community Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naphtali. He's also from the old congregation Bnei Zakin. He's been around since the early 70s and the late 60s as a practicing Israelite. He's been around a long time. He passed about 5 years ago, 2020, right when COVID hit, he passed. He's a lung cancer survivor like 3 times over, but he finally succumbed to lung cancer 5 years ago. I would call him Abba, father. He would call me son. So I entered his Hebrew class in the year 1995, about September or October of 1995. Where I become seasoned in biblical Hebrew is in 1997, 1998, where I'm teaching biblical Hebrew in the community.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you remember the first time you came across Lashawan Qadash, and what was your immediate reaction?
First time I came Lashawan Qadash is on flyers that One West Israelites was passing out on the 2 train. I'm a Brooklynite, and oftentimes because of my location at that time, 95, 96, 94, the train that was the closest to me is the number 2 train, and I would take that train to go to Harlem from Brooklyn. Anybody that knows New York City, you know, from various parts of Brooklyn, you hop on that number 2 train and you're right in Harlem with ease. And I would always bump into, he gonna like this, Elder Zabak. So me and Zabak, we know each other since 1995.
Shout out Pre Zabak.
Shout out Pre Zabak. I would see him on the train, but now mind y'all, the look of Zion Lexx is completely different. I got on fatigues. I got dreads, literally dreadlocks, long locks. My father's a Rastafarian, so me, my brother, and my sister, we had locks as kids. So coming in the community, I came in with locks. I later on cut my locks, but I had it for a very long time. But that's how he remembers me. That's how he knows me, Zabak, the Old Testament brother with the dreads that be quoting scriptures. We used to go at it head and head, so much so that some of his followers, they wanted to fight. And I was young. You know, when you were young, lion, you want to fight too.
Right.
But Zabak, being an elder statesman, would always make sure it never fully went there. And would always pull me to the side and say, young brother, we might disagree on the Messiah, and he might be a prophet, if this is true in some sense. But I remember distinctly, in 1995, he pulled me to the side after about 3 hours of battling on 42nd Street. Mind y'all, Tupac's still alive. It's 1995. Pac ain't murdered until 96. So just imagine the time right now, right? This is 1995. He pulls me to the side and he says, we might disagree on who the Messiah is, young blood, but you gonna be a bad Israelite. I promise you. You just gotta keep going, keep going. He said, trust me when I tell you. I feel it in your spirit. I can hear it in you. You're gonna be bad. All the brothers that was with me was hating. They was like, man, don't let that get to your head. You ain't gonna be nothing. Now, mind you, all the brothers that said that, none of them are in this way of life. None of them. And they're not the people that brought me into this way of life. The people that brought me into this way of life, Kemuel, Akiva, Benahu, they all still in this way of life. But on that particular day, I was with another group of brothers, and none of them are in this way of life. So it just shows you sometimes where irony and history meet each other.
Okay, I think this is a very important question, because a lot of people that are watching this, even myself, I'm not proficient in Hebrew, certainly not even close to the extent that I should be. And a lot of the information that you present, it does go over some people's heads. And I want to say to the audience, not like y'all are not intelligent, but this is a lot of deep information to where you have to be really seasoned in this particular field.
Just to let you know, Zion Lexx, disclaimer, my audience, we all went to public school. So you got to like, we all went to public school. So you got to
let me tell y'all, man, you know, it's funny. When I get off the live stream, my son that's 17 years old, I'm only 5'11". My son is 17 years old, but he's like 6'1", 6'2". And he has really good grades, but he's still a hood dude. He's still a street dude. You know, we live in New York, so you gotta carry a certain cloth to even exist out here. When I get off my live streams, he looks at me and was like, yo, you're diabolical, bro. I'm like, what you talking about? He was like, you sound so perfect online, but when you come off, bro, you don't sound nothing like that. So I say that to say that, you know, we all have dimensions to our personality. And the way I'm received in the community, people look at me as the scholarly guy, the guy that uses great vernacular, you know, high vocabulary, but I didn't make it past the 9th grade. I don't know what it is to be handed a 10th grade report card. I took a GED, which brought me to college in 1997. Yeah, I did that, but I don't know what it is to say, Mom, I'm in the 10th grade. And why was that? Because I was on Rikers Island so much back and forth. I hope everybody knows Rikers Island is like the #1 jail in the whole country. There's many prisons, but Rikers Island is the #1 jail in the country, right? We used to call that Gladiator Town, C4 Adolescents at War. For those who remember, all your favorite rappers from the New York area all had to thug it out and had to come through those halls in order to be accepted in the rap world. You couldn't even be accepted unless somebody knew that you was on Rikers Island. So I say that to say in 1994 and 1995, I was on the island so much that I couldn't finish school. So I don't know what it is to go to the 10th grade. So I say that to say, guys, if y'all seen my rap sheet, if y'all spoke with my parents, my older brother, who, by the way, is on Rikers Island right now. Shout out to my older brother.
free to God, man.
If you free to God. if y'all knew my cloth and where I came from, you would say, damn, Zion, I respect you even more because, like all of you, in order for us to be here right now, we defied so many odds, good brothers. I just have this ability to turn a switch on and show a different side. But believe you me, I'm no different from anybody that's here.
A man of many hats. Okay, so go ahead, Asad. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask this question. What are 3 of the simplest ways you could explain to somebody that doesn't know much about biblical Hebrew that would prove the stance of Hebrew that you take is correct and the stance of Lashawan Qadash is incorrect?
It's a good question.
Simple.
It's a good question. So it begins with pulling up the text. We could pull it up in Paleo Hebrew to begin because that's where that person's vantage point would be. If that person says that they believe that Lashawan Qadash is more accurate, I would pull up a Paleo Hebrew text of Genesis chapter 1. Or I'd say to them, just so that they don't assume that anything is rehearsed on my part. And I even say that to you guys today if you would like to try it out. You guys pick a chapter and a verse in Paleo Hebrew and let's together parse it. Tell me exactly what it's saying. I want to know the past tense, the future tense. I want to know the voice. I want to know if she's doing something, he's doing something. I want to know if it's first person, second person, third person. I want you to be able to fully parse the text with the Paleo, and that will tell me you know the language. If you can't even do that, then we shouldn't even be having a conversation about pronunciation because you don't even know grammar, and grammar is going to dictate what the pronunciation is.
Okay. Is there any verses that come to mind that if read in Paleo Hebrew are going to be, I guess, incoherent versus biblical Hebrew would be more sufficient?
Are there any verses that come to mind when I think of the differences?
Like if you would be like, okay, you speak Lashawan Qadash, read this in Paleo Hebrew, this verse right here, or sentence.
So I don't think it's a matter of reading it. Okay. To be brutally honest, right? Because, and I'll explain why. If a person learns a set of rules for how consonants are to be sounded, anybody could read. So within the first month or 2 in my Hebrew class, everybody's reading. Are you able to understand what you're reading means that you know the rules of grammar.
Right.
So a baby, I can teach, that the first grade can read, can begin to read small books and essentially get through certain pages. But how well a person understands what's going on is a matter of how well we're grasping the grammar, the rules of the language. So for instance, in Lashawan Qadash, the language is syllabic. Ah, ba, ga, da, right, etc. And so a person following that template, and you look at, anywhere in the Bible that's written in Paleo Hebrew, you'll be able to pronounce that, and you'll sound like you're speaking what they call Lashawan Qadash. And then everybody says, see, he knows the language. Till somebody like me walks in the room and takes away all the English and says, okay, now interpret.
Right.
Tell us what it's saying. Break down the intricate rules of grammar. What is a nominal suffix? What is a pronominal suffix? What is propensatory vowel lengthening? When I was sitting down with Brother Shah Ariala, I was on 1. I could have went to 10 with him, but I realized that he was so deficient, so poor in the language, rather than embarrass my own brother, I'll hold back.
Gotcha.
Is there anybody that you think would be a good match for you in the ring with the LQ versus you?
With the who?
We call it the LQ.
They say never say something is impossible, but I'm going to say impossible. If you don't mind, brothers, and I never do this during a live, but I really, really got to go. Give me like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, 2 minutes. My apologies, brother. I'll be right back.
You're good. All praises.
So what I want in the chat to do at this point is we y'all best questions, and then of course you got to get to some that I know other people asked as well.
We got to talk. We got a couple more questions about the language that some brothers sent, and then we got to move on to how he accepted the Messiah. Remember, y'all, he did not believe in the Messiah at one point. Then I really want to see his views on the Jewish community, and then we're gonna get to he's gonna do a presentation, and then we're gonna get to the crowd. Yeah. Look at Rafaala. Rafaala. That's how you write it, not how you look at this. Hassad.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't know.
No, he does because I talked to him about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yod-Heh Vav-Heh is not are the characters. It'd be like if someone's name was Paul. It'd be all praise to P-A-U-L. His name isn't P-A-U-L. That's how his name is spelled.
He said, "Find Ravenous Bird." I know Ravenous Bird calls on Yao, and we know how to debunk that now, thanks to Dr. Divine Prospect. Yeah. Yao is a Greek transliteration of the divine name. You're gonna get destroyed trying that. Let's see. Shout out to the chat. Tell one of them Lashawan guys to come up. Well, yeah, we need somebody. We need a couple people who believe in the LQ. And again, we're not. It's not like we're dropping the LQ. Yeah. We're on a quest to prove. Can we prove it emphatically? What supports it? Any evidence, data, any scholars to back it? Any challenges to see? Here's how you know something's true. When you get in a ring and you whoop somebody's ass about it. That's how you know. Well, they might say, you know what they might say inside. Well, you guys were whooping everybody. Yeah. You guys were whooping everybody's ass with Israelite salvation. Now you're whooping everybody's ass with Gentile salvation.
Well, it's just as simple as just asking questions, everybody. There should be no problems. And this is where this in itself is a problem. This right here. Being mad at somebody, I'm not saying you guys are, but for people that are upset at asking, we're just asking questions. Okay, well, how do you come to this conclusion? Okay, well, how did that come to that conclusion? Because if I'm going to be transparent and be honest, I'm just going to keep it a buck. I accepted Lashawan Qadash simply because this is what I was told. I am not able to go into like the phrase that he was using earlier. What is this? What is that? I don't know. This is what I was told. Okay, this is what ancient Hebrew, this is what Moses spoke. This is what Christ spoke. I'm not able to prove that. I don't know. So for somebody that teaches Hebrew, I would like to ask some of these questions. It's as simple as that. And ask yourself if you're able to prove these things. Are you able to go and prove and parse these vowels and go into Hebrew syntax, etc., and explain and prove that this is the proper enunciation of these words? You might be able to. I am not. And because I'm not, I'm just going to ask some questions, and I'll cross-reference it with this and that, and then hopefully I'll be able to come to a conclusion based off of that. But we're not, somebody asked, are we dropping the names of the most? No, we're not doing that. We're just asking questions. That's all this is, family. Let's not make this something other than, what it is.
Now, would we debate? Listen, I will debate any topic in the world except for is the Lashawan Qadash the proper pronunciation. I'll debate any scholar, any PhD, THD, master's degree.
Right. I'll be honest with you. Like, if you guys think Saad's a good debater, I'm going to be 100% honest. You guys can clip this. If I was to say to anybody that spoke, proficient Hebrew or knew what they were talking about when it comes to the language, like Zion or somebody else, if I was to say, I'm going to debate you and prove that Lashawan Qadash is correct, we would step in the ring, Zion, Lexx, or Divine, or somebody else would say, Hassad, what rhymes with blink? I'd say, what? And he'd go, Mink, and the fight would be over. I'd get knocked because I don't know. I just don't. And so because I don't know, I want to know. Don't we all want to keep learning, or do you want to just stay stagnant? Do you want to believe what you believe because other people told you, and that's just, I just believe what they told me? Or do you want to know it to be true and be able to illustrate it and prove what you believe to be true? So
okay, so it's been 50 minutes, so let's try to get these questions out so he can go into his Prezi. Hassad, go ahead.
This will be one last question. I want to keep it, like you said, we got to move to the next topic. What is the most problematic word in Lashawan Qadash that presents the most problems that you could be able to just show it to somebody and at least get the wheels turning?
What's the most?
Or maybe not the most, but one that comes to mind.
That's so hard to answer because essentially it's all of them. To be honest, I'm not trying to be
I got you.
Humorous, but essentially it's really all of them because Lashawan Qadash treats vowel letters like they're consonants only. There are letters in the Hebrew language that function as vowels and consonants. When a letter functions, when a letter is functioning as a vowel, but you're interpreting it like it's functioning as a consonant, you're now changing the meaning. You're grossly changing the meaning. So that's problematic about the language, essentially, in treating its consonants like every consonant only behaves as a consonant, then that's problematic. When you say shalawam is deeply problematic because you're making the root shin, lamed, wa, mem. That's not the root. The root is trilateral, which is shin, lamed, mem. The wav is only there for pronunciation. Oh, even if you said ooh, which is incorrect, I wouldn't be too upset at that. But saying wa, shalawam, whoa, now you're really changing the pronunciation because there is no Hebrew root shin, lamed, wav, mem, or if I'm pronouncing it as Lashawan Qadash, sha, la, wa, ma. There is no full root like that. Until somebody could show me which dictionary on planet Earth has that root.
At least ISUPK had that right. They said,
Right,
they said it's not shalom, it's shalom.
Would you be able to go into just because one that you said that came to mind was Molech or Malak?
Yes.
And explain how problematic the pronunciation of just saying it's just Malak.
Yeah,
how
yeah.
That is.
So what's deeply problematic about Lashawan Qadash in that respect is that you have a word that's spelled, and I'm going to pronounce first using Lashawan Qadash, ma, la, ka, which is the mem, the lamed, and the kaf. Those three consonants can give you a number of words. They can also give you a number of ideas. They can give you a personal pronoun, which is someone's name. They can give you a noun, a person, place, or thing. There's a number of things that we can build and construct with those three letters. Melech is a king. Malak is an angel. So which is it? Based on Lashawan Qadash, it's the same pronunciation. Are we talking about an angel or are we talking about a king? But here is what Israelites are going to say. Well, idiot. Context is going to tell us what it means, right? The king didn't come down from heaven and speak to the man. The angel came down from heaven. See, that's clear, Rock. But here's the thing. The Hebrew language is such a precise language, is such a uniquely powerful language in this respect that the language perfectly tells you what it is. English depends on context because the English language is a bastardized language. And by bastard, I mean it in the definition of a bastard, having no father, right? Old dirty bastard called himself old dirty bastard, he said, because there's no father to my style. English is considered to have no father, no real root, because it's a conglomeration of so many Germanic languages, including the Latin language, which is Germanic as well. So as a result, when you're interpreting in English, you rely on context because the language doesn't give you a clear, crystal cut clear of understanding. Hebrew is remarkably different. If you understand the language perfectly, then you can understand perfectly what's being said to a huge extent. But I will still admit, and here's where I'm being brutally honest, there are people that really think, and I'm speaking to the Old Testament community right now. You see, the New Testament brothers don't know Hebrew. If they knew Hebrew, they would know that Christ ain't the Messiah. The Hebrew makes it clear. Okay, genius. Go to the 1st century Common Era. What were the people speaking that accepted Yeshua? Hebrew, Aramaic, and even some Greek. Here's what I could tell you. Those Israelites in the 1st century Common Era that spoke Hebrew and Aramaic, they spoke and read it better than any one of us that are alive. Believe that. And they still accepted him. They knew the language better than Dr. Michael Brown. They knew the language better than Rabbi Tovia, whatever his name is. Y'all know the weirdo on YouTube that be coming at people, right? The people who spoke Hebrew that accepted Yeshua, they knew it better than all of us. And they still accepted Yeshua. So what are we going to say? They didn't know Hebrew? That's silly. So I say that Hebrew is a large determining factor towards understanding the text, but it's not the only factor. The text has an esoteric as well as an exoteric side. There's a deeper side to the text. Can I give you guys just one example before you ask me your second question of what I mean?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes when I say certain things, Hassad, as you noted, it's either internalized by some as, damn, that went over my head, or some as, this NIGGA think he too deep. And we ain't with all that stuff. That's you being Jewish right now. Zion be dealing with gematria. That's basically numerology. So Zion's a whole Kabbalist out here. He trying to lead our people into witchcraft. I'm aware of what people say. Believe you me, and I enjoy it. Keep talking. Well, let me say this. In the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah speaks of us going into a place called Shishak. He speaks about the downfall of Shishak. Y'all gonna really enjoy this. Gematria as a system within Hebraic thought essentially is saying that every single letter has a numerical equivalent. Aleph is 1, Beit is 2, Gimel is 3. But don't take my word for it. Open a Paleo Hebrew Bible. Look at the verses. They're not marking it verse 1. They're marking it verse Aleph, verse Beit, verse Gimel. Or if you're using Lashawan Qadash, Ba, Ga would be 3. So everybody knows that the letters function as numbers too, unless you're just completely ignorant to the language. Everyone knows that. But here is what most people don't know. Words that have the same sum total in meaning, when you combine them, they're said to have a conceptual relationship. So what's my first example of that? The name of the creator, Yod, He, Wav, He. Well, Yod is 10. He is 5. Wav is 6. He is 5. 10, 5, 6, 5. 26. Why is that so special? Well, the creator's name was not revealed to the nation until the 26th generation from Adam. But don't take my word for it. Look at the table of names in Genesis chapter 5. Adam, Shet, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Yared, Hanok, Methuselah, Lamech, Noach, Shem, Apakshad, Shilach, Eber, Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nachor, Tirach, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Lewi, Kohat, Amram, Moses. All from heart. In the early 90s, we had to know the genealogy by heart to wear a turban because our teachers told us, you're not going outside representing us if you don't understand this book. So there's certain things we had to know by heart. There's a series of tests that we had to pass in order to get to certain places. We're missing that element in the Israelite community today. We have to be able to shore for what we know. Too many people are on the corners representing the flag of Israel without the knowledge of Israel. On that note, there's a subset of gematria, which is called the Atbash gematria system. Atbash is where the letter Aleph is interchanged with Tav, and the letter Beit is interchanged with Shin, which essentially means the first letter is equivalent to the last letter. The second to last letter is equivalent to the second to last letter. That's called the Atbash system. By the way, everybody could look that up right now as I'm speaking live. I like that kind of way of learning. Let's fact check me live. The Atbash gematria system. I'm going to prove to you that our prophets understood gematria. Jeremiah says, Shishak has fallen. Israel has gone into exile into Shishak. Well, in case anybody never knew this, there is no place name called Shishak. There's no people called Shishak. There's no location called Shishak. All of the Bible commentators are saying, well, he's obviously referring to Babylon, but it's a poetic epithet. No, it's not. It's not a poetic epithet. It's the Atbash system of gematria, where the first letter is seen as the last letter and the second to last letter is seen as the second last letter. Let me show you. The word Shishak is Shin, Kaf. Following the Atbash system, that the first letter is the last letter and the second to last letter is the second to last letter, that would mean that equivalent to Shin is Beit, and there are 2 of them. So 2 shins of Shishak is 2 Beit, so that's Bab. And then there's a kaf. That's equivalent to the Hebrew lamed. What do we just spell? Bavel. Why does Jeremiah encode the word Babylon in that way? Because he's writing while being surrounded by the Babylonians. And it wouldn't be intelligent, it wouldn't be smart, it wouldn't be wise to be prophesying the downfall of Babylon while under Babylonian power and imperial rule. Jeremiah understood that, so he spoke in code. All of the people knew that. But we today say, there's no gematria. There's brothers that I love and respect in the Israelite community so much that I'm not going to say their name. And they say, oh, gematria is post-exilic. What you mean? Oh, after we went into exile, long after Rome and all that. Really? So why is Jeremiah using it when he said Shishak and he was talking about Babylon? I'll drop the mic there.
No, that's interesting. I've never looked into that. I've always been, I rejected gematria, and I still obviously not gonna just accept it. That was dope, but I still definitely gotta look into that for sure. But I definitely appreciate it. Did you want to ask something on Isaiah?
Oh yeah. Let me share my screen. Is the biblical Hebrew that you speak of the same as the language of Canaan? And if not, or if so, how do you understand Isaiah 19 and 18? Is this something that happened? Is this an eschatological passage? Can we weigh in on that?
All right, so biblical Hebrew is absolutely the same as the language of Canaan. It's the same thing. Now, one thing we have to bear witness to is dialect. We can speak the same language, but we can have different dialect. So for instance, we're all speaking English right now. My family, in part, is from a place called Guyana, South America, which is part of the West Indies, the Caribbean. My family, in part, is also from Jamaica. I don't think I need to explain where Jamaica is. Both places in the Caribbean, they both speak patois. That is a dialect of English. To people who don't speak English, I always hear my friends when I was younger, when they would come over my house, they would be like, yo, what language your parents speaking? I'm like, yo, my parents is Caribbean. oh, my bad. They don't even sound like they say in English. Yeah, because I'm first generation. Like both of them were born overseas. So that's why they sound like that. So what am I saying then? The Canaanites have their own unique dialect. The Hebrews have their own unique dialect, but we're all speaking Hebrew. This is why when scholars contrast the difference between Phoenician and Hebrew, they speak of Phoenician Hebrew, then they just speak of the Israelite Hebrew. When you're speaking Aramaic, scholars make a distinction between what's called Eastern Aramaic, which is the Aramaic spoken in southern Iraq, Persia, versus Western Aramaic, which is the Aramaic spoken in the land of Israel. And that's a matter of dialect. So I think it's important that we first know that in any language group, you're still going to have dialect or dialectical differences. Those dialectical differences don't mean that we're not speaking the same language, but we may have our own way of saying these things, if that makes sense.
Got you. Okay. I have a source here that a brother sent me. I asked a few brothers to give me some questions I can ask you. And this is from Zondervan Basic of Biblical Hebrew. And it says on page, I don't know what page this is, but it's Advanced Information, Alternative Vowel Classification. I can upload this to the screen as well, but I'll read it and then I'll upload it. It says, originally, there were only 3 vowel classes in Hebrew: A class, I class, and U class. The other vowel classes, E and O class, developed from the original U class. For this reason, most grammarians prefer to divide Hebrew vowels into 3, A, I, and U, rather than 5, A, E, I, O, U classes. Not sure how I was supposed to phrase this question, but
what's your response to that, basically?
Yeah, what's your response to that? Oh, you cut out, your camera cut out.
That proved Lashawan Qadash. See y'all.
There we go. You're
Yes,
back.
sir.
You're back.
All right.
Did you hear the
Yes,
question?
I heard that. I heard it perfectly.
Okay.
So that's rather easy, to be brutally honest. So when scholars speak of, and it's important to know where exactly the study is making this from, because different studies about how Hebrew evolved are doing this from different vantage points. Some vantage points are looking at the earliest Israelite inscriptions. Some vantage points are looking at the earliest Canaanite inscriptions. So when looking at the earliest Canaanite inscriptions, scholars agree that they were using A, I, and E. Canaanites later developed O and U. Hebrews were already using it. Hebrews were already using it because it was already spoken in regions that Hebrews came from, such as Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia includes all of those vowel classes, A, E, I, O, and U. The Akkadians spoke it. The Assyrians spoke it. The Sumerians spoke it. So those classes exist in the region that Abraham is from. But the Canaanites, and I will agree on this, on that point, although I'm not sure where that person is developing that particular study from, but because I'm aware of what scholars are saying about how Phoenician Canaanite vowels developed, I'm aware that the Canaanite vowel system is said to have originally been A, I, and E, but it slowly evolved into O and U. I believe that that evolution, and that's consistent with what scholars are saying, is because of Israelite migration into that region with the children of Israel via Abraham, Isaac, and Egypt. Because the period that they say that you see the O and the U come in is congruent with the period of Abraham coming. Abraham is 2000 BC. So when we talk about Canaanite vernacular, Canaanites have inscriptions that predate the Iron Age. The Iron Age is 1400 BC. But some of the oldest Canaanite inscriptions that are non-religious, but are dealing with, like, let's say, sales and commodity, they're dating all the way back to the Middle Bronze Age period. And in that period, you can see A, you can see I, and you can see E. But the moment we come to the late Bronze period, 2000, you're now seeing the O and the U. Well, what's also happening? Abraham came into the land. What's also happening? His progeny is multiplying. So as a result of that influx, I believe that you can see that this is where the Canaanite developed the O and the U through us coming in the land.
So it's really, so basically, and just to kind of summarize what you're saying, brothers are, the Lashawan Qadash is closer to Lashawan Canaan. It's closer to what the Canaanites spoke.
Absolutely not.
No?
Nope.
Because
Okay.
then that would mean it's this.
I'll explain. I'll explain. The reason why I can't say that is because when the Canaanites spoke A, I, and E, that E sound can produce tense. That E sound can produce voice. That E sound can produce aspect. That E sound can take us to various points of Hebrew grammar where we can understand how to conjugate verbs. Lashawan Qadash absolutely doesn't do that. Lashawan Qadash says there are two sounds, two vowel classes, the A class and the E class. The E class is the I, right? They're saying I, right? And that's one letter. That's the Hebrew letter ayin. There's no example of that. And I think that that's the point that a lot of us miss in the Israelite community. When something is true, it's not simply true because of what we believe. It's true because it's something demonstrated in history. Now, don't get me wrong. As a believer, as a faith-based person, I understand the relevance and importance of having faith and belief. But when we're having a conversation about history, you got to check belief to the side for a second, and you have to talk about evidence. So here's where the cookie crumbles. There's not a single attestation to the existence of the pronunciations of Lashawan Qadash before 1 West 1969, which really means the greatest irony in the Israelite community then, what we're calling ancient is really modern. By modern, 1969, 1 West. And what we're calling modern is really not modern, it's ancient. That's the greatest irony happening right here. The fact that we think the quote unquote modern, the way of saying things, shalom, that's modern, and shalom, that's ancient. Okay, now let's look at the historical record. Assuming you're right, anyone saying that is right, let's look at the historical record. What historical inscription shows us those sounds? How do we know, Zion? Well, other nations wrote about us and they captured our pronunciations. And none of those pronunciations are ah and I only. It's ah, I, E, O, and U. as I'm going to demonstrate in my presentation.
All praises. Okay, look, these 3 last questions because I'm interested in this presentation. So, do you agree the Paleo Hebrew is derived from a pictograph language? If so, how does your belief of there being characters present solely for the purpose of vocalization affect the definition of a word when every character has a meaning?
All right. So here's where things get really interesting. I like to do this on the first day of class when people take my Hebrew class at Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. The first thing I teach is not how to pronounce Hebrew, not how to recognize the letters, not how to recognize the vowels. I teach the origin and evolution of the alphabet. So I'm waiting on it. Somebody's viewpoint is going to change tonight. The oldest inscription of Proto-Canaanite, otherwise known as Proto-Sinaitic. Those 2 terms are the academic terms for what we call pictographic Hebrew. The oldest inscriptions for that is the turquoise mines in Egypt, in the Sinai Peninsula. This work is championed by Douglas Petrovich. These rock carvings, where they can see that a slave class that are Semitic in origin are using Egyptian characters to write a Semitic language. These Egyptian characters are being used to write a Semitic language, which they later realize is Hebrew. But here's the point. Pictographic Hebrew is developed from Middle Egyptian hieroglyphs. I'm a teacher of hieroglyphs. I know that's true. I can demonstrate today that that's true. I can literally show you the timeline, the chart with the dates and with the symbols of how hieroglyphs looked in 1850 BC to how it looks in the 1800s when it's developed by that Semitic class. So here's the kicker. Proto-Sinaitic, also known as Proto-Canaanite, and known to the layman as pictographic Hebrew, that is a direct derivative of Egyptian hieroglyphs. Hold that to the side. Paleo Hebrew derives from that. So that Semitic slave class that came out of Egypt and entered Canaan land, they developed in that region another form of writing, which is unique to them and them alone, because hieroglyphs isn't their orthography. It's not their writing system. So they want their own writing system. That's why they developed Paleo Hebrew. But Paleo Hebrew characters are developed based on the look and appearance of Proto-Sinaitic or Proto-Canaanite or pictographic Hebrew, which itself is derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs. So what's so problematic about that, Brother Zion? Well, I was told that this is the set apart language. It's the holy tongue. What's holy about it being taken from Egyptians? Should Brother Jabari come in here and laugh at us and say, see, we don't need Zion to tell you. We can show you in history that the Hebrew alphabet's derived from us. It's just a fact. And he's right. But he's missing something. And our community is missing that same thing. There's another script of ours that develops independently. And it's not Paleo Hebrew, and it's not pictographic Hebrew. Both pictographic Hebrew and Paleo Hebrew are both derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs. We are told in the book of Jubilees that the language the Creator spoke the universe into existence is Hebrew. I don't know where communities are at in terms of what books we accept or what we don't, but I heard that a lot of the One West communities do accept books like Jubilees. I'm not sure where everybody's at today. I know for a fact the oral tradition speaks about the original language of creation being Hebrew and it having its own unique characters before creation. So that means our own tradition tells us that not only is Hebrew the first language, but it's also the first writing system. So if the Hebrew is the first writing system, that means it can't develop from hieroglyphs, because hieroglyphs is absolutely not the world's first writing system. Matter of fact, hieroglyphs are proof that it's not the world's first writing system, because what do hieroglyphs shows us? Things you can see and observe in nature. Just like pictographic Hebrew, the head of an ox, the hand of a man, the body of a man. This might be going over the head of some, but if you give me a couple seconds, you might understand what I'm saying. Whatever language script that Hebrew originally has to be associated with must be abstract. It cannot reflect anything in creation, Why? Because it pre-exists creation. If it pre-exists creation, that means the shape itself cannot reflect anything in creation. When Egyptians developed hieroglyphs, it's based on the things that they observed in nature. There goes a lion. We know the lion to make the R sound. So that becomes the R sound in Egypt. They're using things observable, seeable in nature in order to develop their writing system. We didn't write. We didn't develop Hebrew. The Creator did. Our tradition informs us. The Book of Jubilees informs us. So we know that to be true. So here's where things become interesting. Any language system in terms of writing that is seeable and observable in nature, a man made that. Because we are told again that the language that the Creator used to speak the world into existence was Hebrew. If that is true, and we know that is true, then that means whatever script that is, when you see and observe it, it cannot reflect anything that exists in nature because it absolutely pre-exists nature, creation, etc.
So the Egyptians, just to make sure I understand, the Most High, he spoke in Hebrew. The Egyptians then took the things that they saw, for example, the lion or a tree or whatever they see in nature, developed a pictographic language based off of that, which is technically Hebrew. And then we then created our own sect of Hebrew from their language, which comes from Hebrew. So it all goes back to Hebrew. Nonetheless, is the point you're making.
Absolutely. Nonetheless, all languages have their root, branch, and stem in Hebrew. And you know this when you study grammar. So for instance, because I now teach Medu Neter, I once was a student, but I now teach it. When you want to add the personal pronoun you or your in biblical Hebrew, you have to suffix with ka. We say of the Creator, I can say of the Creator Hassad to you that that's your God, that's my God. If I want to say your God, I say Elohecha, right? Elohecha. That ka on the end means you. That same thing is happening in Medu Neter. That the ka on the end is meaning you. The same thing is happening in Medu Neter with the personal pronoun him, right? The possessive him, his, hers, his, hers. You need a O at the end. The same thing is happening in Medu Neter. When you study the grammar rules of Medu Neter, you can literally see the grammar rules of Hebrew. Languages are not related because they share vocabulary words. Sharing vocabulary words to scholars suggests that there was interaction. Two people at once interacted, maybe through trade, maybe through war, maybe through politics. They had some type of interaction. But where scholars know that languages have a common ancestor or that one develops directly from the other is in looking at the grammar, the skeleton, the structure of the language. And it's there that we know that one language either comes from the other one or they both come from a common source. So if I could be brutally honest without adding my Hebraic faith into the conversation, looking at Medu Neter and looking at Hebrew, you can clearly tell that they have the same source. You can say one of two things. Medu Neter derived from Hebrew or Hebrew derived from Medu Neter. I have a whole presentation ready to go to demonstrate why it's impossible that Hebrew derived from Medu Neter. I'm waiting to debate somebody in the Kemetic community on that topic because I have that ready to go. But again, if I pull out for a second to be completely unbiased, then the scholarship, the academics here suggest that Hebrew and Medu Neter have a common ancestor that they both developed from, or Hebrew develops from Medu Neter, or Medu Neter develops from Hebrew. And what I can prove is that Medu Neter develops from Hebrew.
Gotcha.
Okay, last two questions, and then what we'll do is on your presentation, you go into the Messiah and your views on the Jewish community.
So my presentation begins with the order of what you said. You said that we'd be talking about Lashawan Qadash. You said we'd be talking about the Messiah, and you said we'd be talking about the small hats. So my presentation is trifold in that order: Lashawan Qadash, the Messiah, and then the small hats.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll just ask these last two questions, and then any questions we have after that will be based off of your presentation. Without the diacritical marks, how can you look at the Paleo Hebrew script and derive a pronunciation of those characters? Where do we see that enunciation before the Nakud? For example, you say that we can have long U sound, but where are you getting that from before the introduction of the Nakud?
All right. Give me an opportunity to do something I think I do fairly well. The way that Egyptian hieroglyphs were translated by Francois Champollion is through what's called the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone shows Medu Neter in the top. It shows hieratic in the middle, and it shows Koine Greek, or excuse me, it shows not Koine Greek. It shows the Coptic. So Coptic is at the bottom of the register. Coptic is Egyptian with Greek. So it's written with Greek. The Egyptian language is written with Greek letters and Greek characters. Then you have hieratic. Then you have Medu Neter. So how was hieroglyphs ultimately deciphered by scholars? They compared the writing systems. Just looking at Medu Neter, a person would assume that there's no vowels because it's an abjad similar to Hebrew. But when they saw that in this stela, the Rosetta Stone, it's the same proclamation. One proclamation is made in Medu Neter. One proclamation is made in Greek. The other proclamation is made in Coptic. So that means it's saying the same thing. And what they noticed was in the Coptic and the Greek, there were certain letters in the Medu Neter that indicated vowels because you saw their presence in the Coptic and you saw them in the Greek, and it was consistent. And so they began to translate it based on that, and that's how they was able to crack the code. The same thing exists with Hebrew. When you compare Hebrew to languages that have proclamations about Hebrew, the Amarna tablets, the Amarna letters, the Ebla tablets, the Ebla letters, the Merneptah stela, there are several different artifacts that are written in multiple languages that also reflect Hebrew pronunciation and Hebrew transliterations. In doing that, scholars realize that, wait, what the Masoretic text uses to get the O sound, it's also present in Paleo-Hebrew. So the letter Wa in Lashawan Qadash, which is W-A-W in Biblical Hebrew, is indicative of, in Biblical Hebrew, of two sounds, the U or the O. And what did they immediately notice? In several Paleo-Hebrew inscriptions, words are written with an additional letter. That additional letter is the Wav. And they said, time out. The word would retain its meaning without that additional letter. So then what was the point of adding that additional letter at each junction? It's the vocalization. So that means that scholars began to slowly understand that even Paleo-Hebrew inscriptions were indicative of vowel signs, the idea that various letters served as vowel letters. Those letters are, Yod, Hey, Wav, and even Aleph. All of these letters can function as vowel letters, and the academic term is to refer to them as matres lectionis.
So basically what they're doing is they're taking confirmed languages, comparing it, like, for example, like an Arabic or some other Semitic language, and almost reverse engineering it to then be able to compare it to ancient Hebrew, or no?
Right. Yes. In essence, yes, but I would say it's much more meticulous and rigorous because it's not simply compare and contrast. They're actually going through the grammar of each system to ensure that this is what it's saying.
Okay.
Okay, and my last question would be how close the Jewish people today, let's just say the Ashkenazim, how accurate are they in their biblical Hebrew, and why or why not?
Their biblical Hebrew is pretty good. And I know Israelites don't like hearing that. Oh, of course he's gonna mop for the white man and the small hats. But I'm gonna be honest, their biblical Hebrew is pretty good. They fail in several respects, but I'll first say where it's pretty good. It's pretty good, first and foremost, guys, because those of us who believe that the Khazar conversion is 740 AD realize that they have a 1400-year start. We are in the 21st century. 740 AD was literally 1400 years ago. Sometimes when I say to Israelites that Europeans are not a bad source, in understanding parts of our history and our culture, people say, what the hell are you talking about? And I say, okay, Leroy and them, with all due respect, those are the names some of us picked up in this country, right? Leroy and them just woke up 100 years ago. And we swear out of arrogance, out of pride, and out of ego, that in 100 years, we know everything. Small Hat's been looking at this for 1,400 years, and we think they still know nothing. Well, if you're a minimalist in terms of academics, that could be true. But if you deal with honest scholarship, you know that that's absolutely not true. So what I'm saying now then is that the Small Hats do in fact get Hebrew grammar right. Their pronunciations are still influenced by where they come from. We don't say Shabbos, it's Shabbat. We're not saying David, it's Dawid. I'll even accept Dawood. So we're pronouncing that 6th letter as a W. European Jews are pronouncing it as a V. It's simple, it's not crazy. In Southeastern Europe, the W sound is interchanged with V. Do we have to follow them? No. Last time I checked, none of us are from Southeastern Europe. But what am I saying? Whenever a people pick up a language group, that new language that they're speaking is always going to reflect the region that they come from. Even us today, when we speak Hebrew, there's elements of quote unquote Ebonics, or the way that African Americans speak English, that are going to make its way into Hebrew based on where we're at right now. There are Israelites in Ethiopia that can speak biblical Hebrew, but elements of Amharic are there as well. So if we take out the bias for a moment and just use raw intelligence, Europeans aren't completely dumb for substituting V for W. It's based on their language family, but they still are wrong. That's the thing. They're still wrong. I can understand what someone is doing, but I can still point out that ultimately they're wrong. So I understand why European Jews substitute V for W, S for T, because it's based on their language family, the region that they come from. Our T is their S, our W is their V. So I get it. But when you want to speak my language, Small Hat, you're wrong.
So would it be the equivalent of this? So Spanish obviously comes from Spain, but it wouldn't be, maybe not 100% accurate, but it wouldn't be a bad resource to go look at.
Absolutely.
To look at Mexicans who speak Spanish and Puerto Ricans who speak Spanish and Dominicans who speak Spanish. It's not the exact same as the Spanish from Spain, but it's similar enough to be able to go to it as a reliable resource.
That's a fact. So here's the thing about it again. Based on where we are in the world, your place of origin, in terms of where you're at right now, locale, region, is going to affect the way you speak. I'm a New Yorker. We all speak in English. I'm pretty sure at some point, some of y'all like, yeah, Zion's from New York. At some point, I could be like, oh yeah, so-and-so's from the South, so-and-so's from the West Coast. Look at how in the language we all speaking right now, our region is already affecting how we say various words. So if we have enough basic intelligence, and what I want to say is common sense, to understand that, then we should not find it hard to understand that based on a person's location, the way they speak language will vary. And that's okay. But when it comes to talking about what is right and what is wrong, ultimately, their pronunciations are wrong because it's influenced by a language family that does take us away from meaning. The word is not Shabbos, it's Shabbat. You're not saying that T on the end. I'm sorry, you're saying a completely different word.
Gotcha.
Okay, before we get into this presentation, I just want to say something to these Black Hebrew Israelites. I really can't stand a black.
Chill, I almost spit up on my hot chocolate.
I really can't. Like, the same niggas I've been teaching for 20 years are on here saying the stupidest shit. Like, somebody said, go. So you're saying to go learn from the white man. These same niggas use ChatGPT and the blue letter Bible.
Come on.
The nigga who want to go into the Hebrew and Greek word gonna use James Strong. James Strong's on the blue letter Bible. Like, shut up.
Watch this, priest. The moment you disagree with them and you tell them they wrong, they're gonna bring you to a white man book and show you why they right. See how that works?
Give me
you
your
see the hypocrisy there?
Give me your black linguistics. Give me your black linguistic. Give me your black scholar. Give me your black PhD to prove your point. You know what? You're not going to be able to do that.
We have the black linguist on stage.
We have the black PhD.
You niggas are going to the white man. You guys
got the black scholar on stage.
We're learning from the black man right now. So what y'all niggas need to do is shut up and listen to the black man speak.
And mind you, here's the thing about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is so vibrant, is so real that a person could be living in it in that moment and not even see it. The same people writing in the comment section, so you telling us to go to the white man. They got their children learning in white schools right now. Right now. Even as some of them same Israelites writing that is about to celebrate Christmas on December 25th. We got Israelites that do that too.
And listen, their job, Zion Lexx, at their job, they got to go to they got to go to their job. They got to go to training.
Listen, brother.
Who's training them at their job?
It gets better than that. It gets better than that. For those of us that believe today's the Sabbath, some of those very Israelites that's writing this is writing it from the job.
So you're doing more than learning from the white man. You're breaking the Sabbath for the white man. Anyway, yeah, let's get into this presentation. All praise to the Most High. Oh, I do want to make an announcement. The Genesis Varsity Online Academy, we have been having our dear beloved brother, Dr. Divine Prospect. He's been in here tearing it up. I'm going to play a little bit of that on this Sunday, if it be the Lord's will. He broke down Obadiah 1:18. It's just a what's the word I'm looking for? It's
poetic.
It's just a poetic, perfect, just hit a perfect breakdown. We've been saying it this whole time. Now we got Dr. Divine to prove it. Next month, we will be having another scholar in the varsity in our dear beloved brother, Zion Lexx. So make sure you guys come through and, pull up. Don't meet me there. Beat me there. It's going down. Hit the email. All praises. All right, so we're going to give you the floor for your presentation, brother Zion, and then after that, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. All praises.
All right, so my screen is it's up. Literally, it's up. Let me just make sure that there we go. All right, good brothers, I'm not going to waste no more time. Let's go. You guys invited me to talk about Lashawan Qadash, the Messiah, and essentially the small hats. Here we go. All right. I don't know why it started all the way from the back, but I'll just bring it back for the time. Here we go. Debunking Lashawan Qadash, who is the Messiah, and Jewish identity. I have an introduction for each passage that I want to go into, but I think we don't have enough time to do that. So for those who are interested in reading this, you can just pause it when you go back to the full clip, but I'm going to move. Lashawan Qadash and the crisis of pseudo-linguistics. After this particular part of my presentation on Lashawan Qadash, you're going to see why I'm referring to Lashawan Qadash as a crisis of pseudo-linguistics. The expression Lashawan Qadash is promoted by its advocates as an ancient, pure form of Hebrew, allegedly preserved outside the Masoretic tradition and untouched by later grammatical development. At the center of this claim is the assertion that biblical Hebrew was a syllabic language, restricted to only two vowel sounds, commonly described as ah and I. According to this view, all Hebrew pronunciation is said to derive from these limited vocalizations, often justified through appeals to instinctive human sounds rather than linguistic structure. What does that mean? This is crazy, y'all. I'm not going to mention the names of these brothers that said this, but it's from the Kemet on trial era. I'm not going to say who said it. It was one of them particular, but I want to keep it real, so I have to speak about it. I've literally heard respected teachers in the One West community that follow Lashawan Qadash say, "Ak, babies come out speaking Lashawan Qadash from the womb." So what you talking about? Babies say ah, they say ga, ga. I say, yeah, they say guga too. What you talking about? The hell are you talking about? Nah, they come out saying the Lashawan Qadash, they saying ah and I. I ain't never heard a baby say I. I heard ah, I heard ooh, I even heard we. What are y'all some of these interpretations, guys, they are really crazy when we really sit down and analyze them. But I'm a comb through it slow And I'm going to also try to be very respectful to our entire community because I love us and I'm here for us, as I hope you guys are here for me too. This theory does not represent a lost ancient system rediscovered. It represents a collapse of linguistic method. When examined against the Hebrew of the Torah itself, whether written in Kitav al-Shurit, square Hebrew script, which is what we use today, or Paleo Hebrew, the Lashawan Qadash framework fails to account for how Hebrew grammar, morphology, and meaning actually function. The model lacks textual evidence, it contradicts established Semitic linguistics, and it dissolves under the most basic grammatical analysis. You guys saw when I sat with the good brother Shah Ariala. And with all due respect, where he folded the most was when we were talking about grammar. And you all saw it. No proponent of Lashawan Qadash can get past the conversation of grammar. They will fold. The modern construction of Lashawan Qadash. Lashawan Qadash is not attested in any ancient Hebrew source. Oh, Zion is wrong, idiot. There's a Misha Stela with Paleo Hebrew. There's the Moabite Stela with Paleo Hebrew. That's the Lashawan Qadash. The Lashawan Qadash is a vocal system. It's when y'all start saying ah, ba, ga, da. That's Lashawan Qadash. Paleo Hebrew is not Lashawan Qadash at all. And the community has been miseducated for so long that I have to say this. When you've spent your life in miseducation, the truth seems strange. When you spent essentially your entire life under miseducation, the truth seems strange to you. Lashawan Qadash is not attested in any ancient Hebrew source, meaning those pronunciations. No Torah manuscript, inscription, ostrakon, or early commentary describes Hebrew as a two-vowel syllabic system. Neither ancient Israelite tradition nor medieval Hebrew grammarians present such a theory. Josephus wrote in several languages, one of them being Hebrew, one of them being in Aramaic, one of them being in Greek. Josephus spoke the real Hebrew. None of his pronunciations reflect Lashawan Qadash. Instead, Lashawan Qadash emerges in modern sectarian contexts, largely as a reaction against rabbinic authority, Masoretic transmission, and academic linguistics at the same time. Authentic ancient languages leave evidence in text. If Lashawan Qadash is accurate, then show me the preservation of those pronunciations in any ancient literature. Show me that there are Egyptian inscriptions that when translated make the sounds that you're saying in Lashawan Qadash. Show me them. Show me one, and I'll show you 10 that represent the Masoretic Hebrew. Why Hebrew cannot be syllabary, consisting of just ah, ba, ga, da. Hebrew writing systems, both Kitav Ashurit, which is the modern square script, and Paleo Hebrew are abjads. An abjad is an alphabetic system that just consists of consonants. Every abjad also contains inherent vowels. It's just that looking at the writing system alone, without someone telling you the sound, you would not know. All of us had to be taught A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Nobody picked it up and automatically knew what it meant. All of us had to be taught that E, O, and U sometimes can have very similar sounds. We had to be taught that. We had to be taught that I can sometimes be pronounced as an E. That had to be taught, orally transmitted. An abjad records consonants, while vowels are supplied through speech and grammatical patterns. You see how the vowels influence grammar and grammatical patterns? That's going to be key and crucial in this presentation. A syllabary, by contrast, requires a unique sign for each syllable, such as ba, bi, bu, and so on. The Torah itself demonstrates that Hebrew operates on consonantal roots rather than syllabic units. For instance, the word for king in Kitav Ashurit is melech, and in Paleo Hebrew, melech. The semantic core lies in the root mem, lamed, kaf, not in a fixed syllable, ma, la, ka. If Hebrew were syllabic, the same consonants could not shift internal vowels to convey different grammatical meanings. Because as I showed and demonstrated with Ariala, vocalization changed meanings in words. You guys are going to see that in the next couple of slides. Yet this flexibility is foundational to Torah Hebrew. Consonantal roots and grammatical meaning in the Torah. Hebrew meaning is anchored in consonantal roots, while vowels convey tense, past, present, future. Voice, who's speaking? State, what we're speaking of. Function, a system limited to 2 vowel sounds cannot sustain this structure. The common Torah-based illustrative root, kital or katal, reflects how Hebrew verbs actually operate. In kitav ashurit, katal expresses completed action. Kotel expresses an active participle. Watch this for a second. I'm speaking to Deacon, I'm speaking to Hassad. The next Hebrew speaker of Lashawan Qadash that you meet, someone that teaches it, ask them what is an active participle, what is a passive participle. Ask them to define that. Then ask them to give you examples of that in Hebrew names in the Bible, in Hebrew verbs in the Bible, and see how quickly they fold and look at you and say, that's the white man. This has to stop in our community. We literally just making up stuff as we go along, and nobody's really committing themselves to learn because it's easier to make something up than to actually sit down and learn. All I'm doing is shifting vowels. Katal expresses completed action. That's the past. Kotel expresses an active participle. A participle, by the way, everyone, is a verbal adjective. Yiktol expresses future or model action. That's what Ariala did last week. I said, Ariala, if you know real Hebrew, I want you to say he killed or he murdered. And he said, Yatazarak. And y'all heard me tell them live, that's not he killed. That's he will kill. When you added that yod or that ya, you made it future tense. Second person masculine future tense, he will. And then Ariala immediately said, guys, I am not Zion Lexx's peer. Zion Lexx been studying the language much longer than me. Y'all all heard him say that. Why do you think he had to say that? Because that's where the cookie crumbles. People who know Hebrew, they don't just know what letters look like and how to sound alphabetic consonants. They understand how the grammar works. If you don't understand how the grammar works, stop telling people you teach Hebrew. In Paleo Hebrew, Katal preserves the same consonantal framework, but it lacks the presence of vowels, which indicates tense, voice, state, and function. These distinctions depend on multiple vowel qualities. Reducing Hebrew pronunciations to ah and I removes the very mechanism that makes Hebrew intelligible. The collapse of the 2 vowel claim. Now, I picked this book online because a brother had brought it to me once that was in my class and asked me to check it out. And I hate to give a bad report card for anything that's produced in our community, but this one failed with flying colors. There were so many errors in it. And to think this person is using it to literally write the Bible. And it's replete with errors. We often in the Israelite community have the audacity to say, King James is wrong, the NIV is wrong, and this is wrong. First thing I say to anybody to say it's wrong, do you speak the original from which it's translated? Are you able to read it? No. Then how the hell you know it's wrong? Oh, because Dr. So-and-so that knows the language said it's wrong. Okay, so you're a slave to Dr. So-and-so until you could read. Next person. If you don't read the language for yourself, you got to admit you're handicapped to somebody who can. You're now reliant and pursuant upon somebody's word. What if their word is flawed? What if their word is not their bond? What if they're liars? There's a number of reasons why following a person could be wrong, and understanding for yourself is always more helpful. The Torah itself contradicts the claim that Hebrew uses only 2 vowels. Let me explain. The word Torah appears as Torah in Kitav Ashurit and the same as Torah in Paleo Hebrew. The internal O vowel is structurally necessary to convey the meaning of teaching. That's it right there. That's it right there, the O. Right next to the T in Paleo Hebrew, what looks like an X, and the Y in Paleo Hebrew, what looks like a Y in Paleo Hebrew, but is really the letter Y or O. That's it right there. That's the vocalization O. People will look at this in Paleo Hebrew and say, Ak, there's no dots. There's no dashes. None of the Masoretic markers are there. See, Hebrew originally had no vowels. Here's what I want to tell anybody still saying that in 2025. You need to read A Beginner's Guide on Biblical Hebrew. Go get you one that's written by someone in Africa. You know, Ethiopians have Hebrew grammar books. If you don't trust the white man so much, go read the ones produced by us in South Africa. Go read the ones produced by us in Ethiopia. Go read the ones produced by us by Middle Eastern Jews that are non-European. If you don't trust the white man so much, then go to an alternate source. But continuing to get things blatantly wrong in 2025 is crazy. There's a saying, knowledge is so accessible today that to be ignorant takes effort. Torah in Kitav Asherit and Torah in Paleo Hebrew, the internal O vowel is structurally necessary to convey the meaning of teaching or law. Without that O sound, this would not mean teaching or law. So in Lashawan Qadash, people are saying Thara. Thara. Thara don't mean law or teaching, but Torah do. If I change the vowels on this and say Tara, that's a completely different word in Hebrew. I'm not saying law. I'm not saying teaching. So pronunciation matters. And this is what the community is missing. Altering it to fit a two-vowel model produces a word that no longer corresponds to the Torah text. The divine title Elohim in the Kitav Asherit and in the Paleo. The vowel patterns distinguish it from related forms such as El or Eloah. A two-vowel system cannot account for these distinctions, even though they appear consistently throughout the Torah. Now, again, I thought this was crazy when I heard somebody that I actually really respect and still respect to this day say this. Ak, babies come out the womb speaking the real true tongue. The tongue of the Holy One of Israel. Ak. What you talking about? Babies come out the womb speaking Lashawan Qadash. They say ba ga. Here we go. Infant babbling as a false linguistic analogy. A reoccurring justification for Lashawan Qadash is the claim that newborn infants, when producing sounds such as ga, ba, or da, are somehow echoing ancient Paleo Hebrew speech. This argument is fundamentally flawed. Infant babbling is a biological and neurological process, not a linguistic one. Babies across all cultures produce similar sounds because they are physically easy to articulate, not because they reflect any specific ancient language. If this logic were valid, infants would simultaneously be speaking every language that uses similar consonants. Hebrew is not instinctive vocal noise coming out of the womb, ba, ga, da. It's a structured language governed by grammatical rules, which infants do not possess. I thought this was crazy.
The contrast between you maturely addressing it and the thing that you're addressing is absolutely hilarious. You're having to listen, everyone. This is why Google Gaga is not a real language.
I'm trying, man, because the way that I teach, when I'm really in my zone, I edutain. So I add a little humor and I add a lot of knowledge. And unfortunately, as you brothers know, especially with the YouTube algorithm, our people aren't locked in until they can laugh, shout, maybe even cry. Our people are passionate, emotional people. So that means a teacher, if you're here just doing the Dr. Brown, people going to be logging off.
No, for real. You definitely got to put some spunk into it. We're the salt of the earth. So we definitely got favor and flavor.
Got you.
All right. So we're done with the linguistic part.
Yes, we are essentially done. I could move on to the Messiah part. That's a fact.
Okay, that's cool. I do have a question. If you could demonstrate,
But I wanted to demonstrate the hieroglyphs, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But real quick, this I'm not trying to be funny, but like, how would it sound if you were to have a conversation with yourself as if you were speaking in Lashawan Qadash?
Having a conversation with myself. Well, in biblical Hebrew, Ani Abdiel, Mashemka, Shemi Abdiel, Afo, New York. Oh, okay. Kane, Ani May, Brownsville. Right? I could do that in biblical Hebrew. Now, Lashawan Qadash, yikes. Damn. I can't, bro. And I'm not even trying to be funny. I can't. It doesn't work.
Because I was thinking about me doing it, and then I'm just gonna get hatred. But it's gonna okay. You know what? I don't.
Go ahead, try it. Give it a try. Give it a try.
Here's what it's gonna sound like. Something like this. Barakabai kakalai my shanakalamai akamai rabba aska. You know what it's gonna sound like?
Hakwakwakaba.
Barakal shalamai kamaka baraka. You know,
I want to see still somebody. I think Shabar is going to come up here. He said he has all the information. He's fluent in the Lashawan Qadash. So we want him to come up here after this presentation. We want to hear some fluent Lashawan Qadash, Brother Shabar.
Excellent, excellent. So some of you probably know that the Kemetic Grandmaster teacher that just passed, Baba Heru, when I debated Jabari for the first and last time in person, Baba Heru presented me with a chain, and he put it in the hands of Jabari, which I thought was embarrassing for Jabari, to present it to me. And he said, this was an honor of you learning the Medu Neter. So the Kemetic Grandmasters have, put respect on my name as a credible Medu Neter teacher. They've seen me do it in the museums. They've seen me demonstrate in person and online. So I definitely do Medu Neter. On that point, everyone, we're looking at an insert from what's called the Merneptah Stela. Everyone can pull this up online. Merneptah, MERNEPTAH, Stela, or Stele, STELE. It's dated to 1205 BC. The name of the pharaoh is in Medu Neter pronounced Meri Ptah, which means the beloved of Ptah. It comes into Greek as Merneptah. Now, he says a lot of things on this stela. On lines 27 through lines 28, you can always tell when somebody's been studying, by the way, because people are just going to yabba, yabba, do babba, but nobody's going to really get knee deep in it. On line 27 and 28, after mentioning a host of Canaanite lands and tribes that he conquered, he now says that he conquered and destroyed Israel and left them without any seed. When he mentions Israel, this is how he spells it. He uses the double reed leaf, which produces the Y sound. I have the equivalent sounds up in Hebrew. I could have drawn for the equivalent sounds in English, but I'm always thinking as a teacher, because those who read Hebrew can use both skill sets right now. So you can literally see that the double reed leaf translates to the yod or the yah, and it's right here where you guys see my arrow. So that's Y. The door bolt can pronounce an S or a Z. That's an S or a Z. You can see the door bolt right here being equivalent to Zion as a Z. You can also see it right here as an S equivalent to sin, right there. So that's an S. These two diagonal lines are the vowels, and it's the E vowel. So far you have Yissi, Yissi. The mouth glyph is the R, R. So Yisri. Mind you guys, Medu Neter has an SH. That's the marsh. That's this right here. They didn't use SH for Israel. So Houston, we already have a problem. In 1205 BC, I would believe, guys, that's the time that we're using Paleo Hebrew. I also believe, guys, there's no Jewish man alive. I also believe, guys, that no one is speaking Yiddish, but I could be wrong. I'm being humorous. They clearly didn't use the SH. They used the S. Y-S-E-R. The single reed leaf is equivalent to 2 vowel sounds. It can be an E or it can be an A. But whenever it's followed by the eagle, which is always an A, then we know that it's acting as an E. So the single reed leaf here is an E. The eagle is an A. So far we have Yisriya, Yisriya. The last mouth is not an R. It's an L. Egyptians used the mouth glyph to represent both the R or the L. Why is that? Ancient Egyptian language does not have an L sound. The L sound belongs to peoples in the region of Kush and to Semitic speaking tribes. So whenever Egyptians wanted to represent the L sound, which is a sound that's foreign to ancient Egyptian language, they used the mouth glyph, which is R. Why is that? I want all my linguists to listen carefully. And I'll even ask for people who aren't afraid of looking crazy. I know people are going to make jokes in the comment section, but people who are mature and aren't afraid of looking crazy in their own house, demonstrate this right now in your own house. Linguistically, the difference between sounding an R and an L is moving your tongue either up or down. When you say R, R, your tongue has to go down the roof of your mouth. When you say L, L, you're bringing your tongue up to the roof of your mouth. So R, you're bringing your tongue down. L, you're bringing your tongue up. Linguistically, the difference between an R and an L is the movement of your tongue. If it's moving up, it's an L. Just like when you make L, your tongue hits the roof of your mouth. If you're saying R, you're pushing your jaw down. You're bringing your tongue down. So Egyptians rightfully, by the way, this also shows how intelligent they were. Of all the glyphs that they could have used for L, they naturally used the R because they already understood the linguistic interchangeability. That also tells us they were very wise people, by the way. So the way we know that the second R or the second mouth glyph is acting as an L here and not an R is this line right here. This line, whenever it's under a hieroglyphic letter or Medo-Neutral consonant, is telling us to either read the glyph literally, as in to look at it for what it literally represents, a mouth, or it tells us to consider more information. In this case, it's not telling us to look at it as a literal mouth. It's asking us to consider the whole picture. Why? Because it's followed by the throw stick. The throw stick is a determinative. First and foremost, what is a determinative or a determinant? A determinative in language is a language classifier. If I write 2.50 on a paper right now, what am I saying? You're saying it's 2:50 p.m. or a.m.? No. That's the numbers for longitude and latitude? No. Damn, Zion, what are you saying? I'm saying $2.50. Oh, then you need a dollar sign. The dollar sign in the English language is a determinative. Without it, there are a number of ways that we could read 2.50. So what I'm saying now is the throw stick is the determinative for foreigner in ancient Egypt. So whatever this word is, whatever name this word is, it's indicative of a foreign people. So if it's indicative of a foreign people, and this R can also produce the foreign sound L, then we know that the sound is L. So far we have Yisriel, Yisrael, or Yisrael, just as we pronounce it today. Except the Egyptians lead with the E, and in biblical Hebrew, we lead with the A. The Egyptians have it as Yisrael, in biblical Hebrew, we have it as Yisrael. But both the ancient Egyptian language and biblical Hebrew capture the S. Nobody's saying SH, except for One West, 1969. The next glyph is a man and a woman with 3 strokes. Those 3 strokes, anytime something is repeated 3 times, it represents a group or plurality. So a man kneeling and a woman kneeling represents a people group, a nation, a tribe, or a people. So together, all of the information is telling us, excuse me. Sorry, guys. So together, All of the information that we're reading so far is telling us that whatever group of people this is, their name is Yisrael. They are a foreign people. So I'm going to sum it up now. The Meneptah Stela records the name Yisrael, represented by the consonantal YSRL, which corresponds directly to the Paleo-Hebrew and the Kitav Ashurit that's used today. This attestation proves that the name Israel was already fixed in a root-based Semitic form long before the Masoretic tradition. There's no Masoretes in 1205 BC. And the Egyptians are pronouncing it Yisrael, not Yashar Allah, requiring multiple vowel values to be intelligible. The proposed form, Yashar Allah, is not represented here, nor does it appear in any ancient inscription, manuscript, ostragon, scroll, or classical grammatical tradition, Hebrew, Egyptian, Akkadian, Aramaic, Greek. I believe I can stop right there, but I'll end with this last word. Anybody that's a proponent of Lashawan Qadash, do me one favor. Show me any ancient inscription that transliterates to sounds produced in Lashawan Qadash. If you do that, I won't teach ever again.
I have one question for that, Brother Zion. That was a bomb. In the Meta Neter, if the proper name was Yasharala, do they have the words in Meta Neter if they wanted to convey that? Could they have written that down if they
absolutely wanted? Even as I was saying to you guys that they do have the SH.
Right.
That's why I had those hieroglyphic charts with the Hebrew equivalents. They have an SH and they still use the S.
Right. Then you have to ask yourself why. Why is that? Why are they not writing the SH?
Come on.
Are they just doing it to be disrespectful? We don't want to. We know that in 15 or 3,000 years.
We know 2,000 years from now they're gonna be arguing about the language. Let's confuse them, and
that doesn't make much sense.
It don't make no sense, man.
I think Priest had to step away. That was a dope presentation. Did you want to go into the Messiah now?
I definitely want to go into the Messiah, man. This was my Achilles heels for years. I've been in this way of life for 32 years. In the last 8 years, I've finally come to the realization that Yeshua is the Messiah. The community that I come from, those who love me still love me, but I always had hate no matter where I went. So even in the community I come from, the people who really didn't like me, I gave them a reason to hate me now, because now I stopped preaching their doctrine and I believe in the Messiah. So I'm going to enjoy this presentation.
All praises to the Most High.
All praise to the Most High.
So for anybody that keeps saying, man, y'all clicked up with this brother, he's Old Testament only. He just told you, no, he believes in the Messiah. So now what? So now they just got to find another reason to hate you. They're going to say, oh, well, I don't like niggas from Brooklyn.
All facts, bro. All facts, man. All facts. So here we go. Mashiach in the Tanakh, an anointing agent of the Creator. The term Mashiach simply means anointed one and is applied in the Hebrew Bible to kings, priests, and even prophets who are appointed to act on behalf of the Lord. Over time, the Tanakh narrows this concept toward a singular eschatological figure who embodies righteousness, obedience, and covenantal restoration. Isaiah presents this figure not merely as a ruler, but as a servant whose mission involves suffering. This already challenges later assumptions that Mashiach must only be a conqueror and never suffer. The Tanakh itself allows for a redemptive role rooted in affliction. So in the Old Testament community, everybody says, we all taught, I used to teach, Yeshua had to fail because he did not do what the Messiah is spoken of coming to do. He did not judge the nations. He did not gather in the exile host of the children of Israel. And he did not spawn the rebuilding of the third temple. He did not spark or spawn the rebuilding of the third temple. So he failed. But what if that wasn't his job? What if there exists in the scriptures two representations of the Messiah? One who is suffering, one who is a valiant king. Can two things be true at one time? That's absolutely a fact. Two things can be true at one time. Melchizedek was a king and a priest. The future Redeemer will be a king and a priest. So, is it possible that the Messiah could have a first and a second coming? Yes, he can. In his first coming, could his mission be not to judge the nations, not to gather in the exiles, not to spawn the rebuilding of the third temple, because in the era of Yeshua, the second temple wasn't even destroyed yet. But could his job chiefly and solely be to save his people from their sins through the sacrifice of his life? Yes, because that's exactly what Isaiah 53 paints for us. No Old Testament Israelite can get past Isaiah 53, literally telling you this man suffered for the sins of others, not his own sin. Every Old Testament Israelite alive, I'm going to speak like I mean it, on planet Earth is going to say, no man can die for the sins of another. And I'm going to say, yeah. But Isaiah 53 says the Messiah will. See, the difference is I'm not contradicting the scripture. I'm going to let the scripture speak for itself. This Torah says, by Torah, I mean the Hebrew Bible, it says God is the only Savior. I am the Lord, and besides me, there's no Savior. Guess what I say? That's a fact. But go to the book of Judges. Go to Judges chapter 2 and see the people sinned and did that which is evil in the sight of the Lord. And then the Lord raised up a Moshiach, a Savior, who saved them. Whoa! Go a couple verses down. The people did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord raised up a Moshiach, the Hebrew word for Savior, and he saved them from their sins. Can two things be true? They absolutely can be true. I am the Lord, and besides me, there is no Savior. That's the Creator speaking, and that's a fact. Yet he can raise up man as a Savior. Is that a contradiction? No, it's not. All salvation belongs to the Lord. But Priest Daniela taught me something during Kemeton trial in our conversations that we would have behind the scenes. Priest Daniela know that I was stuck in the thinking of Old Testament, wanted to lend some wisdom my way, and he sure did. He said, Ak, I know you skillful in the Hebrew. I can't go back and forth with you in the Hebrew. That's your lane, Zion. Priest Daniela, for those who know him, is a very humble brother. And I'm paraphrasing him, by the way. He says, Zion, I ain't about to go back and forth with you on the Hebrew. I know you're skilled in Hebrew, so I'm not going to do that with you. But I do have a question for you. I said, go ahead, priest. And he said, whenever the Creator acts in the world, who is it through the agency of? I'm paraphrasing. Is it through an angel? Is it through man? Do you agree that the Lord acts through man? I said, yeah, that's a fact. Damn. Kill shot. The moment I said the T in fact, I understood what he said, and I changed my opinion immediately. Some of us have so much ego that we can't do that. If you guys would have asked Priest Daniela this conversation, he'll tell you right now Zion ain't lying. If you would have asked him, did I respond to him seconds after he wrote that and immediately say to him, I agree with you, ask him. He'll tell you yes. That's a fact. Whenever the Creator acts in the world, it's through the agency of man. Salvation can come from an earthly king, but ultimately that salvation is of the Lord because the Lord is working through that king. So when we speak of the Mashiach acting in the agency of the Creator, being a Savior, it's the operative phrase people need to think about. He's acting in the agency of the Creator. And that's how he's able to be regarded also as a Savior. I hope people are paying attention. Next slide. Isaiah 53 and the death of the righteous. Hassad, I usually charge, if I'm being brutally honest, when I appear on people's channels, unless I'm a fan of those people and I respect their work. I can say that about you guys. And I'll tell you this, there are certain topics in the community that you can even ask Sarnetta. I don't even show up for unless there's a certain amount of money offered, because time is value, and oftentimes people don't value your time. So when I give my time, I want to be valued for my time. But I tell you this, not only will I not ask for a payment for the strongest Old Testament Israelite to have this debate with me in Isaiah 53, but I'm willing to pay them to debate me on Isaiah 53. Y'all find out for me who that would be. I'll pay them to debate me on Isaiah 53, proving that it's referring not just to a Messiah, but Yeshua.
All praise to the Most High.
With that being said, Isaiah 53 and the death of the righteous. Isaiah 53 describes the servant of the Lord as one who was despised, rejected, pierced, and afflicted, yet ultimately vindicated. The text states that he bears the iniquities of others and that his suffering brings healing. This servant is said to be righteous, yet treated as guilty, and his soul is described as an offering for guilt. The Hebrew term rendered guilt offering is asham, a sacrificial category in the Torah. This is not metaphorical language detached from Torah categories. It's precise cultic terminology. Isaiah presents the death of the righteous servant as having atoning value, a theme echoed repeatedly even in the oral tradition. Uh-oh. Some of y'all are saying Zion versus Gadal. I want to say don't insult my intelligence.
Yeah, that's a little child, man.
But shout out to Brother Gadal. I know he thinks he's worthy, but I really want to say please don't insult my intelligence. But okay.
Man,
Zechariah.
Already went. That'll make him 0 for 3. He already lost against Priest. He already lost again. It would be 0 for 3.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know any Old Testament Israelite that's sharp enough to debate me on this topic. And some of them are my friends. And I'm going to say this with respect because I consider this person a friend. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't keep it real. Mighty Hebrew can't have this conversation with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wipe the floor with him on this conversation, respectfully.
You got to do a 1v20. That's what we've been because nobody wants to debate us on this Gentile salvation. We said we'll do a 2v100.
Yeah. In all honesty, I literally can't think of an Old Testament Israelite that really could have this conversation with me. It would be overkill with all of them. I think the best people that could have this conversation with me, unfortunately, is a small hat. I think Rabbi Tovia Singer would be dope. I think because he's a proponent of the Old Testament only, I think that would be dope. But I don't know any Old Testament Israelite, and I'm pretty much familiar with every single one of them. I don't know any of them that could really have that conversation with me. I literally would embarrass them because I know everything that they're going to say. I championed it. I was the lead person in the Old Testament community to attack the New Testament. So I know what they're going to come with. I invented some of the styles. What y'all going to do is borrow and remix what I already brought. Shots fired. Zechariah 12:10 and the pierced one. Zechariah prophesies that Jerusalem will look toward the one whom they have pierced and will mourn for him as one mourns for an only son. This figure is singular, identifiable, and connected to national repentance. The Hebrew word for pierced is dakar, and it's indicative or indicating of violent death. This passage does not speak abstractly of collective suffering, but of a specific individual whose death precipitates mourning and spiritual awakening. When read alongside Isaiah 53, the convergence is difficult to dismiss. Some people don't like when Zion say oral tradition. And what I say about that is, my teacher in this way of life, one of them, his name is Crown Prince Zarishadai. His children introduced me to this way of life. He's a 3rd-degree black belt. He's well known among the old school gangs in New York City and Chicago. As a martial art instructor, he would always say there's 2 formats. We could talk it out or we could work it out. So I'll say this respectfully. To anybody that has a problem with me saying oral tradition, quoting oral tradition, we could always debate on it. I'm ready whenever you are. The oral tradition, the death of the righteous as atonement. Rabbinic literature repeatedly affirms that the death of the righteous brings atonement for the generation. Do y'all see what I have highlighted in red? These same rabbis that act confused that the death of Jesus or Yeshua could bring atonement for death, it's in the very oral tradition they swear by. So why are they out here lying to y'all? Somebody got to be the sacrificial lamb in our community to go and study all this stuff. We have so much bias in the Israelite community that we are literally blocking ourselves from information based on bias. Who from among us is going to be bold enough to say, I'm going to learn it all, figure out what's right from what's wrong, and bring it back towards the benefit of our community. You know how many things I've uncovered in the oral tradition that Israelites are using today? Ron Dalton, with all due respect to him, uses several things I teach in the oral tradition that he first got from me and never credits me. And this is my first time openly speaking on it. Some of us just don't have discipline. Some of us just don't have respect. It's important to say where you got something from, because if you're saying it wrong, people can always go back to the source. If you're acting as if everything came from you, then we know you're a lie. Somebody from in our community has to be bold enough, equipped enough to go and study it all, make corrections in those studies, and bring it back towards the benefit of our community. And I could tell you guys, I've been doing that work for decades. So I'm going to show you some of what I uncovered. Rabbinic literature repeatedly affirms that the death of the righteous brings atonement for the generation. This principle appears in the Talmud and Midrash, where the suffering or death of the righteous, or in Hebrew Zadikim, is said to avert judgment or atone for communal sin. It's literally taught in the Talmud, Mishnah, Gemara, Midrashim, that the death of the righteous atones for the sins of the generation. This idea is not foreign to Hebraic thought. It is internal to its ethical and theological framework. Within this context, the suffering Mashiach is not an anomaly. The oral tradition preserves the concept of what's called Mashiach ben Joseph, Messiah, son of Joseph, who the rabbis say is a messianic figure who suffers, is rejected, and dies before the final redemption. So I got a question. All these rabbis that debate against my messianic Israelite brothers, acting like y'all are crazy for believing in the New Testament of Yeshua, because it's just crazy that somebody can die for the sins of others, how come they're not telling you that they swear by it every day in their own literature? I can tell you why they don't tell you that. If European Jews and rabbis would admit to us or Christians that there exists in rabbinic Judaism a concept that the death of the righteous atones, they know that will arm and strengthen your resolve in using it to defend Yeshua. So rather than be blatantly honest and tell you the whole truth, they act as if you're lying, when the whole time they know that not only are you right, but it's written in the books that they worship and swear by. Guys, somebody from among us got to do the work. I used to always wonder as an Old Testament Israelite, how could the Messiah come from Galilee? Yeah, Micah says he would be born in Bethlehem. Yes, the New Testament says Yeshua or Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but his ministry is all in Galilee. Like, where's the template for that? I used to always wonder until the summer of 1998 hit. And I left John Jay College. And I began to study at a particular, we'll talk about that later. I began to study at a particular place here in New York City. And I learned a lot. I want you guys to go out and watch the movie. It's free on YouTube. The Spook That Sat on the Door, by the Door. It's a black guy that's an ex-CIA and ex-FBI agent. He joined the FBI and then joined the CIA solely to take all of that paramilitary information, all of that governmental expertise, to bring it back and unify his people and galvanize them to revolt against the government here in America. The movie's called The Spook That Sat by the Door. He was willing to go learn all of those things key and necessary to create a successful uprising. Y'all catch my drift? Somebody from among us got to be willing and bold enough to go into spaces that we normally wouldn't be in order to extract those things that in part could aid our liberation. Here we go. In reading the Zohar, of which I've been reading since the summer of 1998, it teaches that the Mashiach would appear in Galilee first. That blew my mind away in the summer of 1998. Allow me to intrigue you. Galilee and the emergence of Mashiach. The Zohar teaches that the Mashiach will first be revealed in the Galilee. I beg somebody to look that up online right now. Zohar, Mashiach revealed first in Galilee. I beg somebody to do that right now. Fact check me live and allow me to explain further what the Zohar says. The Mashiach will appear in Galilee first because it is here that the exile began, so it will be here that the exile will end. Everybody go back and look at the Assyrian captivity. What region in the land did they conquer first? Galilee. So because it's there that the exile began, the rabbis living in the era of Yeshua and even living in the era as early as Ezra were already surmising that it was here that the Mashiach would begin his ministry, because it was here that the exile began, so it should be here that the exile ends. That's the basis in the Zohar, that the Mashiach will first be revealed in Galilee. That blew my mind away as an Old Testament Israelite, because I used to think that was all New Testament made up and fictional. Galilee is portrayed as a region of concealment before revelation, humility before glory. This tradition aligns with the prophetic theme that redemption begins in unexpected places. Yeshua's emergence in Galilee is therefore not a deviation from expectation, but a fulfillment of an established mystical teaching. His early ministry in that region corresponds precisely to the Zohar's description of the initial manifestation of the Mashiach. Now, here's where things get even really interesting. The Old Testament Israelites in the community I come from, they say Yeshua never even existed. I think that's crazy saying in 2025. By the way, guys, as much as I could be honest with you and tell you that there was a time, there were decades that I didn't believe in Yeshua as a Messiah, never once in my life did I ever believe that he didn't exist. I had enough intelligence to know that I could respect things that my teachers were saying that was right, and I could not respect things that I understood was wrong. I always knew that Yeshua existed. The Babylonian Talmud confirms the existence of Jesus. It confirms that he died on the cross on the eve of Passover. It even confirms that one of his disciples is named Matthew. It even confirms that he did in fact produce miracles, but the Talmudic writers hate on him. They say he produced miracles because he learned that magic while he was in Egypt. Watch where they still messed up. Y'all remember Menace to Society? You done messed up? Watch where they still messed up. They were better off lying and saying he didn't create miracles. Because to say that he got it from Egypt, guess what they still did? You still admitted that he produced miracles. By the way, the rabbis of the oral tradition and the Talmud in particular, they hate Yeshua. They hate his ministry. They hate him personally. They hate everything about him. So ask yourself this question. For them to admit that he created miracles, you know how much investigation they had to go into to even assert that that was a fact? Because to say that this man, who many in the world were believing was the Messiah, produced miracles, they understood the implications. It could shake people's faith. People that disagree with him could see in the miracle that he's great and possibly want to believe in him. So there had to be a thorough investigation into his miracles to even go on record to say he did do miracles. The Babylonian Talmud records Yeshua as a historical individual. It places his death on the eve of Passover and acknowledges that he performed signs and wonders, though disputing their source. They say he learned to produce these things in Egypt. The Talmud also preserves the name Mattai, Matthew, corresponding to Matthew as one of his disciples. The oral tradition speaks of there being two sides to the Messiah, or there being two personalities, Mashiach ben Joseph and Mashiach ben David. The profile of Mashiach ben Joseph, as based on the oral tradition, is that this Messiah would be a righteous sufferer, rejected by his own, and killed before the final redemption. This matches the gospel's portrayal of Yeshua with remarkable precision. His death at Passover, his call to obedience to the Lord, and his role as a catalyst for repentance align with both scripture and oral tradition. The Tanakh, the Talmud, and the Zohar together allow for a Mashiach who suffers first and is vindicated later. All of the rabbis of the oral tradition agreed that the first appearance of the Messiah wouldn't be to rule, wouldn't be to be a valiant king, wouldn't be to judge the nations, gather the exiles, and spawn the rebuilding of the third temple. They say his first appearance would be to suffer and die on behalf of the sins of the people. So I have a question. Why aren't they telling you that, us that, Christians that? Because they know that that could be used in our armor and artillery towards strengthening our argument. So rather being honest, which is what they're supposed to always be, they rather lie and act like this is not in their teachings. But because I studied it all, I'm here to pull the cat out the hat and show you they lying. Y'all want to talk about Khazaria, or y'all want to ask questions before we get there?
I do want to ask this though. Is you went to Talmudic sources, right? Are you aware of the Talmudic rabbinic midrashic sources that talk about how Jesus Christ is in hell boiling in hot excrement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
go ahead.
So as I made mention, and I was very audible about it, the rabbis of the Talmud particularly have a real problem with Yeshua. They hate him. So, priest, I want to say this to you. I know you're a very intelligent guy. And Hassad, I want to say this to you. I know you're a very intelligent guy yourself. You know, in scholarship, some of the greatest evidence for what is true will come from oppositional sources. So if the enemy that you're fighting is writing that you won the war, and you're also writing that you won the war, and scholars on the ground can see evidences that you won the war, then we know you won the war. What am I saying? In the Israelite community, we don't want to hear the oral tradition because we say it's Jewish. Even though if timelines matter and dates matter, somebody please stop me from being a teacher, because I will if you could show me otherwise. Tonight I'll stop teaching if you could show me otherwise. When was the Talmud written? The Palestinian Talmud is already here by the 4th century Common Era. That's the 300s. The Mishnah was already here by the 200s Common Era. The Babylonian Talmud is here in the 500s Common Era. We all say European Jews came in 740 AD or Common Era. So how did they write something that precedes them by hundreds of years?
Yeah, we don't take the position that the Ashkenazim come from the Khazarians.
Right.
We take the position that Dr. Henry Abramson takes, that the Kalanimus family is the bottleneck for the Ashkenazim. And he said the Talmud mentions the Kalanimus family. So he connected the Kalanimus family of Onkelos, the great translator. He connected him and his family to the progenitors, if you will, of the family that went and started the Ashkenazim. So we do still believe in the Khazarian conversion, but we also believe that these Edomites, Onkelos, and according to Dr. Henry Abramson, says that they're the bottleneck of the Ashkenazim.
So that's a good point. Now, whenever we're conducting scholarship, we always have to question motives. Dr. Henry Abramson is an Ashkenazic Jew. It would benefit his argument to trace the origin of Ashkenazic Jews all the way to Onkelos, because Onkelos exists between the 1st and 2nd centuries Common Era. But most importantly, it would distinguish European Jews from the Khazarian Empire, which is what he's trying to do. Because I actually know Dr. Henry Abramson personally. I'm actually trying to interview him. Those people who are in my classes, I'm gonna need y'all to type in the chat room. We was just talking about this week, that I'm gonna be interviewing Dr. Henry Abramson very, very soon, right on my channel. So he's actually somebody I know personally, but I'm also gonna still be true to the fact. So what he's attempting to do is distance European Jewry from having Khazarian interests or having Khazarian origins, because it benefits him. To admit Khazarian origins doesn't benefit him. So that's what he's trying to do. And I can actually, and I would be willing to come and present a counter view to that position that he presents right on your channel. I would be willing to do that.
Nevertheless, let's say he is either, telling a lie. When you're trying to cover up a lie and you tell a lie, you got to keep lying. So Nevertheless, let's say he's trying to evade the Khazarian position. He's still told on himself because the Talmud says onkelos the converts. So he still tells on himself either way that the Ashkenazim goes back to converts, not bloodline Jews. But then my second question is so if you believe that we are the ones that composed the Talmud 200 to 500 AD, you believe that's us in there talking about you can lay down with a 3-year-old in one day, and then if you're black, you can't be able to Cohen, and deficiencies are black skin. That's us writing that.
This side is not for you, good brother. This side is for the misinformation that we see online. You probably don't know this, but I have a 4-hour video on my channel that's dated to 2019 or 2020 on this very topic, the controversies in the Talmud, whether it's saying that having sexual intercourse with a minor or a child is accurate or is good or right, whether they're against black skin. I literally go through every claim in the video, and you even see me in the video bringing people on the stage from the audience. What you hear me say at some point in the video, anybody in the audience that has seen anything online or can cite anything in the Talmud that's ridiculous, crazy, insane, and perversion, I'll call you to the stage. And they came up and we read it together. And after they read it, it was like, damn, Zion, I always thought it was saying this. It's not that. So let me first deal with that claim. And I don't want to stay there, but because we're here, let's enjoy the moment. So if you notice, the place in the Talmud where this conversation is happening is very important. The Talmud is divided into what's called tractates and masechtot or masechot or chapters, right? Each chapter is relative to a particular discussion. That chapter of a 3-year-old child is in Masechet Ketubah, which is the marriage contract. Why are we having that conversation there? In Israel, if a woman is a virgin, her marriage contract is the highest price value. If a woman marries a man and she's not a virgin, her ketubah goes down. Could we agree on that? Do all Israelites know that, by the way? Y'all agree with that? You know that the ketubah of a woman, the price value is lower if a man marries a woman that's not a virgin versus if she is a virgin. Are you aware of that?
Well, we don't
need a ketubah for
a used box. We don't believe that you pay for the used box biblically.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
rabbinically. Rabbinically.
Okay.
But
Okay, so I'll tell you what. Rather than stay here in that moment and have that conversation again, I'd love to come back and have a more developed conversation. I really would. I really think it would be beneficial for all sides. Maybe y'all could show me something different. Maybe I can show you something different. I say that with genuine humility. But here's the thing. The position is, as per the rabbis, if a woman is a non-virgin, then that ketubah price goes down, right? She's not as valued as a woman that's not. Now, I understand in 2025 how that reflects. A lot of women are entering marriages not as virgins. So believe you me, I understand the emotionalism attached to that. But I'm saying from the vantage point of the era of the rabbis and sages of the 3rd century before the Common Era into the 4th and 5th centuries of the Common Era or AD, that was certainly their thinking on paper. That's actually what they wrote down, that the ketubah value would go down. So at the point of talking about a child or a minor, the question arises, what if a child is sexually abused? If a child is sexually abused, what happens with the ketubah? The rabbis point out at age 3 years old, the hymen is not fully formed, which means if a sick, perverted person was to enter and engage in a child that's 3 years old, the hymen would still come back between 3 and 9. That's why the Talmud said that between the ages of 3 and 9, she is not considered yet a woman because of the fact that the hymen is not even fully developed. By the way, that's a scientific fact, that the hymen is not fully developed between those ages. So the Talmud is not saying it's okay to have sex. The conversation is a de facto conversation.
Right.
What happens if a woman was sexually, by the way, all of us grew up many of us grew up in the hood, where we all had that uncle that couldn't be left alone with the girls. So we all know that some of these things really happen. So the rabbis of the Talmud are addressing things that really happened. What happens when you have a sickle in the community that violates a child? When she grows up and marries somebody, does her ketubah go down because somebody abused her? So the Talmud goes, no. Between the ages 3 and 9, it's not fully developed. After those ages, if a woman is abused underage, it's still a defilement, it's still wrong, but unfortunately, her ketubah does go down because her hymen is fully developed. So once you puncture it after that age, it's pretty much a wrap. That's the conversation that's being had.
Understood.
So when people look at it outside of reading the whole thing, of course, people say, they're saying you can have sex with a minor, when clearly if you read the whole thing, it's not. So I had a debate with Jabari, and I had a debate with Brother Polite. Many of you actually know me from those eras, debating Jabari and Polite. Polite says Deuteronomy 22, like GMS teaches, allows for women to be raped. What do we all say? Read the full context, and you'll see it's not rape. And when you do, you see it's not rape. That's why I say to people, did you read the full thing? Matter of fact, where in the oral tradition is that recorded? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to get the place. So you don't know. No, I don't know, but I know I saw it somewhere. So here's one thing I know when I ask you that question. I know you haven't studied it. Because if you studied it, you'd be able to tell me. When people start giving me misinformation about the Bible says this, the Bible says that, every Israelite says, show me where that is. And when the person starts fumbling and stuttering, we all say, and stop me if I'm lying, y'all, we all say, you don't even know the book. But you're going to tell me what it means and can't even tell me where it is. So what happens when I throw that same logic back at many in our community that are parroting things that they heard was wrong, but I asked you just to basically show me where it is, and you stuttering and you fumbling. So that means I know that you looked at a sound bite. I know you looked at a small passage, and I know based on that you thought what it meant. But what happens when you sitting down with somebody that's thorough in what it actually says, that can take you in the Hebrew and Aramaic of the Talmud and clearly demonstrate that that's not what it is, and literally embarrass you in front of the community? Then you're going to just not like me. I'm willing to be that sacrificial person just so the community could gain information. I'm willing to be unliked temporarily so that we could rise eternally. Got
you. Okay. All praise the Most High. Were you concluded with your portion of the Messiah, or did you want to keep going? Because I know it is getting a little late. I don't know how long you wanted to be on. So.
I'm on much longer. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to cut off at 9:30. Mm-hmm. So I tell you this, although we definitely intended to do more shows, we didn't think that there would be a part 2 to this.
Right.
I think your community would benefit for a part 2 on this.
Absolutely.
But here's the cliffhanger. Throw me in what we could call the hot seat. Okay. Challenge me, either any one of you brothers directly or anybody in the comment section or anybody in the community. Force me to answer to those questions in the Talmud that everybody says renders the Talmud a disgusting book. Throw all of those points, bring all of those passages, and we'll pull it up on the Summer Jam screen. And I hope whoever believes in what it's saying, I hope you got your Kleenex that day. It's going to be an embarrassment. I want you to entitle that show if you guys can, and I say this in humility because I'm coming on your show. Put me on the hot seat. Throw hot seat somewhere in there. Put me on the hot seat on the oral tradition. I want that smoke.
So would we be able to do, since we didn't really get to touch the Jewish identity thing, we could do, I guess, a short Jewish identity thing and then go into that? Would that be all right?
Yeah, we could definitely do that, man. You know, the reason why this conversation is so important because there's a person in the comment section that really wrote something really good. Forgive me, good brother or sister, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but Zimagua wrote.
That's a brother. That's a good brother.
That's a good brother. Good brother. Could you explain the oral circumcision? That's wild as heck. That's not only wild, that's sick and that's crazy. That comes from a book called the Shulchan Aruch, produced by a European Jew by the name of Rabbi Joseph Caro. He's an Ashkenazic Jew. He's writing to other Ashkenazic Jews. It's codified in a work that's called a Table of Fortune, but it's meant and designed to be a codification of how to interpret the laws based on European thinking. And he says that they're going to perform metzisa, which is a process of suctioning a wound. They say they're going to perform it by mouth. So that process is described by European Jews as metzisa bepe. which is suction by mouth. So when you go into the 1st century Common Era, you can even see it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Rabbis are actually telling you how circumcision was treated medically. What did they do to control the blood? They used gauze, materials that could act as gauze, like cloth, to sap up the blood. And I want everybody to think about this. You couldn't get penicillin in 100 Common Era. You couldn't get Advil. You couldn't get morphine. What were they using to control
Pain,
disease and infections? A lot of people may not know this. Your saliva is antibacterial. So what people would do is they would collect saliva from the person or their family, and they would use that on the pad, on the gauze that suction in the wound to kill anything that could possibly create infection or bacteria. What did nasty small hats do? Oh, since the earliest oral tradition speaks of using saliva, and saliva comes from the mouth, forget the gauze pad, I'm going to just put your thing in my mouth. So Metzisa Be Pe, which is suction by mouth, that's an innovation created in the 1700s by Rabbi Joseph Caro in what's called the Shulchan Aruch. I had this discussion with Jabari, and the video is on my channel.
No disrespect. No disrespect. I'm already public enemy #1 on this YouTube thing, so we can't. Let's just stop talking about this completely, because they're gonna be. They might try to come clip me for that. But good, everybody.
Let me tell y'all. I just want to reiterate something, man, guys, and I really mean this. And I know y'all still gonna put me on the hot seat, and I look forward to it. And I hope that I could show you that I mean what I say. I've really been doing this work for decades. I too was taught that the Talmud was crazy. My teachers, by the way, don't believe the Talmud. The Old Testament community that I come from, they reject it. They don't follow it. There's a very, very small sect of Old Testament rabbis from the Rabbi Matthew community that follow some parts of the oral tradition. Nobody in the community that I come from, none of them follow it. So every teacher I ever had always told us to don't go into the oral tradition. It's European, it's Jewish. But my mother always told me I have hard hairs. I don't listen. And I'm glad, because it forces me to learn. So I still went into it. And I learned a lot of things. I learned some things that were good. I learned some things were bad. But nonetheless, I learned. So I say that to say, good brothers, on this particular topic, there's a lot of things that we grossly have misunderstood. It's in part the reason why everything we don't understand, everybody says is Jewish. Everything is wrong is the European small hat. And I got to tell you guys, we got to figure out a better argument or a better way of articulating what we haven't studied ourselves. Everything that's wrong can't be Jewish. Everything you never studied can't be Jewish. Why not at some point admit that you just haven't thoroughly investigated it?
Oh, praise to the Most High. Now, whenever your like, what is the word? When your calendar would permit, I would definitely, and I think the people would definitely love to be able to be a part of that as well. So on behalf of everybody, I definitely want to thank you, brother, for coming on here. It's been almost 3 hours and dropping.
For sure. No, next time whenever you're free, like we can do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What I want to do is the next one, I want you to do your presentation, because I don't have too much pushback on the Khazarian theory, although I still believe in the Kalonimist theory as well, or theory or proof, whatever you want to call it. But I just wanted you to get a chance to get that out there, that information out there. But I do want to, since I have the Mishnah and the Babylonian tractate here, I do want to, because if I'm looking at something wrong, I want to go through all the stuff, the racism in there, from what we're seeing as the racism in there and the sexual immorality in there. We definitely want to do that and see if you could rectify or reconcile that for sure.
I would be honored to. Oftentimes, there's a quote. You see, when we have ancient works being translated by modern people, their thinking enters into it. That's why I said much earlier in the discussion that whenever we're trusting a translation, we become a slave to the translator. So European Jews are clearly the ones that are producing the Talmud, even though they didn't write it. So when they're interpreting it, they're adding their thinking. There's a teaching on Ham in the Talmud that said Ham was cursed in his skin. That's a fact. You know what the European commentator added at the bottom? His skin turned black. When you read it in the Hebrew, it just says he was cursed in his skin. All throughout the Hebrew Bible, a person being cursed in their skin is black skin turning white, never the other way around. So the European writers, not wanting to admit what we know from scripture, when skin is cursed, it turns white, not black. Far be it in their minds that we can admit that. They inserted in the commentary in English, his skin turned black. But right above it, and this is the beautiful thing about reading the oral tradition of the Talmud, you can always see the Aramaic Hebrew on top, and you'll see the English translation at the bottom. If you can read both English and Hebrew, make sure they match. Because I'm going to show you when we come back that it literally says in his skin. And you're going to see below the English interpretation say his skin turned black. But because Israelites don't read Hebrew and they only can read the English, they assume the Hebrew said what was written there.
Hey, that's a good point. That is a good point. Before we close out, because it has been 3 hours, I know the main question everybody's asking is, what do you believe the name of the Most High is? So he's going to tell you guys right now.
He already stated that.
I know. Let him tell the people.
So I want to admit something. I promised to share that personally with Brother Hassad and Deacon Hakar, Priest Hakar, because my training has me of the idea that we should not just pronounce the Creator's name publicly for the whole world, that we should have respect and reverence for his name to the extent that we say it in prayer, we say it in communal worship when we're together worshiping. But you wouldn't catch me in I live in New York, so I was going to say ShopRite, but most of y'all don't live in New York. You wouldn't catch me in Kroger's saying the Creator's real name as I'm talking to a goy, a stranger. I have so much respect for the Creator's name that when I say it, it's among my family. I'll say it with y'all. I'll say it when we're praying as a community. I'll say it in my personal prayer. Just like none of y'all will go in Kroger's and be speaking to a random cashier and your mother's name is Janet, and the person says, "What brings you here today?" "Man, Janet told me to come." You would never just say your mother's name. Most of us know when we first meet people in the street, we don't just tell them what our parents' name is. When they eventually find out, is because they've had so much experience with us where they've developed so much respect, then we divulge that. So I come from a tradition that we don't just repeat the Creator's name for any and everything, that we treat that name with the utmost reverence. And I also can tell you guys that, and here is where understanding language is important. In the book of Exodus, where it says, I could actually show you guys live on the screen right now if you want me to. In the book of Exodus, it says, "This is my name forever." It's written in Hebrew, Alam. Alam is not forever. Olam is forever with the additional letter, the letter Wav. That's forever. That's eternal. It's written in Hebrew, Alam. Look up Alam in any dictionary of your choice. You don't have to use mine. Any dictionary of your choice. I can also show you in a dictionary right now live. Alam means to hide. It means to conceal. So look at what the Masoretes did. The Masoretes vocalized the name using the Nikud. They vocalized it as Olam. That means eternal. But they wrote it as Alam. That means to hide. They were conveying two things. This is the Creator's name forever, but it's something that we must preserve and reverence to the extent that we conceal it among one another. We don't just give it to the nations. Remember what the Creator says of his name. He gave it to us. I reveal myself to you. That revelation is for us. When you really get into the philosophy behind the Creator's name, the thinking behind his Creator's name, the ideology behind the Creator's name, that revelation is for us. It can only come to the nations once they have been civilized through Torah observance. Before that, they shouldn't receive that. So with that thinking in mind, European Jews thinking that they're the real Jew, they'll never tell you the pronunciation. Because in their mind, you're not the real Jew, they are. In their mind, you're not civilized, they are. So they will never speak the name to you, but they speak it every day in their house. I've been in synagogues where they said the name. I know how it's pronounced grammatically. I know how it's pronounced in a communal setting, which, by the way, is a difference. But they only do it among people that they believe has been civilized. So my point is, When Moses wrote, "This is my name forever," he vocalizes it saying forever, but it's written as if it's saying to conceal. So based on that, I don't actually teach what the pronunciation is openly. However, I could show you guys something right now if you allow me to share my screen.
Hey, go ahead. Take it away.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes,
so I literally, okay, everybody can see my screen. So I literally can show you live right now, grammatically, how we can come to what his name is. And I can even show you literally what that pronunciation is. But I say, with all due respect, I'd rather share that with the leadership. If these brothers turn around and decide that, forget what Zion says, I respect him as a brother, but we have different opinions, and they decide to share that to the community, there's nothing that I could do about it. But I'll do my job, and I'll share it with them privately. I'll explain based on the grammar what it is and how it should be pronounced. And after that, if those brothers decide to publish that and make it public, not only I can't stop them, nor will I hate them for it, but I will definitely say our tradition teaches us to guard the name of the Most High. Whenever we read in the Torah, shout the name of the Lord, speak the name of the Lord. You have to realize there's a hidden inference there among us. We're not supposed to be carrying the Creator's name throughout the world until the world has come under the civility of Torah. Without that, this ain't for them. This is for us. So I have it ready to go. I can show you guys how we understand what the name is based on grammar. And I can perfectly explain why the grammar perfectly shows you what the pronunciation is. I just would never do that freely online. When I say freely, I mean before the public eye. I'd rather communicate that to the leadership, with all due respect.
All praises. All right. Well, hey, you know what? Peace out. Peace out, y'all. We about to rock with Divine. I mean, I said Divine. Rock with Brother Zion Lexx. You guys can't get it. No, I'm joking.
By the way, I want to say something. I'm a baby to the New Testament. I haven't studied it as much as I've been studying it in the last 8 years. I've been awakened for 32 years. Most of those years, I'm studying the Old Testament and the oral tradition alone. I'm not really studying the New Testament. I'm aware of it, but I'm studying it to debunk it, which means you're not really studying it. If you're studying something to debunk it, you're not really studying it. In the last 8 years, I've been studying it to understand it, which means I'm a baby to you, brothers. There might be things that I could have an edge on because of my understanding of language and the history and the oral tradition. When it comes to the New Testament, there could be things I have an edge on, but I gracefully bow to you, brothers, to the entire Hebrew Messianic community. I'm willing to learn from you guys on the conversation of the New Testament, which is the reason why I can tell you that I'm aware of who Hassad is. I'm watching you. I'm learning from you. There are things that you guys bring to the table that I don't have that I'm going to benefit from. With all due respect, with all due humility, if there's anyone that thinks for 1 second that I don't have anything that you guys can benefit from, we're grossly fooling ourselves. Each of us have a contribution that can benefit the community, and it takes humility to be able to see that.
It's a fact. Proverbs 6 says, you can learn from an ant. If I can learn from an ant, I can learn from my brother. There's no way that you can't learn from a brother. No way.
All praises, all praises. Well, you know, my good brother Zion, if it's okay, anytime next week, I would like to get on and talk about the Mishnah, the Gemara, and then you know, the Khazars as well. No pushback on that, really. Maybe I can show you some things about the Kalanimus family and conversion as well.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, we definitely could build on that. So I'll get with you behind the scenes, and then let's definitely do a
hold on. I'm from New York. Pause. You said you're gonna give it to me behind the scenes. Pause.
No, I said get with you behind the
scenes. I told you I'm a comedian, man.
Oh, praises. Because I know the people wanted to come on here, so we're gonna get it. We're gonna do a part 2. We're going to be talking about the Talmud. We're going to be talking about the Khazarian conversion and the Kalanimus family. And then you brothers and sisters in the chat, can you see Shabar is nowhere to be found right now.
I was gonna say respectfully, where's the Shabar guy?
He's not here. I'll stay longer for Shabar. Anybody? Matter of fact, I got Shabar's number.
I know Shabar better come with his A game, because I'm gonna stay to him and be like, I said bars.
Watch this. You said ask him how you say he killed or he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
He killed. Oh, now he don't want to answer. This is 2025. Everybody's glued to their phone.
He's watching it.
Your call has been forwarded.
I didn't get a text.
The call has been forwarded to
yo, man. You can't make this up, man. You cannot make this up. This happened on Inside the Nation Radio. People was telling Abia that they was gonna be calling in, that I'm done. It's a wrap. He was calling people phone left and right. A brother told him, yo, man, my phone broke.
We was debating somebody one day. The nigga he fell off the stream. He came back in the chat. He said my phone exploded.
I'm
playing. He literally said his phone exploded. Kaboom! All praises. Well, part 2. Then we'll open it up for the smoke first. All right, because I know these are people who are low vibrational sometimes, and it's not innately in ourselves. It's the air we breathe in Babylon, the water we drink in Babylon, the food we eat in Babylon that has us at these low vibrations. So we'll start with the smoke, and then we'll do the presentation after. That way everybody can get off where they mad at. And if you don't want to click the link, you can just type your questions in the chat, and we'll deal with the chat. So again, we appreciate you, Brother Zion Lexx. I'll let you promote or advertise anything. How can they find you? How can they sign up to the Hebrew classes? What's going on with you? Any major work coming out soon? What we doing?
All right. So I could be found on Facebook as Zion Lexx TV. I can be found on YouTube found on Facebook as Zion Lexx, on Instagram as Zion Lexx, on YouTube as Zion Lexx TV. My online academy is Learn Torah Hebrew Academy at patreon.com/Learn Torah. I also want to take the time to let my community know at Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, as you guys always hear me say in class, David says in the Psalms, from all my teachers, I grew wise. My class will tell you what I always say after that. Why did David say from all my teachers? He learned from more than one source. On that point, Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, I also want you to visit the academy of these brothers right here. I want you to patron them. In the spirit of our ancestors, David grew wise from all his teachers. If you're just learning from one source, you're always missing something.
Oh, praise it. Somebody said check the chat for Shabar. All right, listen, I'm gonna do this. This should be done by now. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Maybe he's in the chat. Put the link in the chat for Shabar. We'll just give it a couple minutes. If not, I want everybody to enjoy their night here. I'm getting a lot of text messages about the divine name.
All praises to the Most High. Thank you again, Brother Zion, for dropping some gems tonight, King. All praises to the Most High.
All praise to the Most High.
You're not Shabar, and neither do you subscribe to the LQ. So what can we do for you, Patrick?
I wanted to ask Brother Lexx, was his pronunciation of the Most High, was it from the syllable inscription? Did he get it for that, or what did he think about the syllable inscription in northern Sudan? And I was hoping he knew about that.
Yeah, it contains a theophoric name, Yahoo. So that's common in Israelite names. It says Yahoo, the Shasu of Yahweh, and in the Meta Netra is pronounced as Yahoo. So that pronunciation is capturing theophoric suffixes. The fact that we see names like Eliyahu, the fact that we see names like who else can I think of with a Yahoo?
Benjamin.
There's a couple. I can't think of all, but I know Eliyahu is one. There's many more. For some reason I can't think of them. But Yahoo is a theophoric name. So what that Soleb inscription captures is the theophoric suffix Yahoo. That's common in several biblical Hebrew names. But the theophoric suffix is not the actual pronunciation of the Creator's name. It's a suffix. We are not allowed to have the full name of the Creator in our name. So that's why I'm always appalled when I see Israelites online and their name be Yahweh, Banya, Yahweh. Like, what? I don't agree with the pronunciation Yahweh, but because I understand what they're trying to say, I just think that that's crazy. Have some respect for the Creator. Why are you calling yourself his name? So when you see the names of the Creator in people's names in the Bible, you'll never see the full spelling. You'll never see in anybody's Hebrew name in the Bible Yod He Wav He. You'll see Yod He Wav, you'll see Yod He, but you'll never see the full spelling of his name. So the Soleb inscription does not capture the full spelling, nor the full vocalization.
Can we do this? Can we do this? We're about to, Zion, if you can, once we log off here, can you run the proper pronunciation by me and Hassad?
Oh yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
Dua, I appreciate you.
See you, Patrick.
If you have,
See you, buddy. Bye, buddy. Sorry, I'm joking, bro.
Yeah, if you have the Yahoo with the Solab inscription, is the oldest one we have. Is the oldest inscription you have. So, how could we say it's theophoric when it's the oldest one? Do you know of another one that I might not know about?
It's the oldest inscription capturing a theophoric name, not the name. Let me ask you a question. Do you know what a theophoric name is?
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying if it's the oldest that.
If you don't mind, could you explain to us what a theophoric name is?
Well, that's really tough explanation.
So if you can't explain what that is, how will you understand what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. I understand it. I understand perfectly what you're saying. I'm not starting nothing. I'm just saying.
No, I don't think you're starting anything, but I'm just saying. I'm just making a point.
If we're going to say the oldest inscription is theophoric,
Brother Patrick,
what we base that on.
Brother, you don't even know, or at least you haven't explained as of yet, what a theophoric name is.
It's not complicated to explain, Patrick. We love you, and we'll see you on next time. Shalom, brother. Okay.
I was going to put up the Soleb inscription and read it for us live. If you guys don't mind, I have it on the screen right now. I could read it and translate it into Medu Neter Live and make that point very clear.
Go ahead.
All right. I have the screen shared on my end. You guys should see it on your end. When it's up, just let me know, somebody, and I could go into it.
There it goes right there.
All right. All right. So remember I said to you guys that Medu Neter has SH, right? Anybody remember me saying that earlier?
Yep.
Okay. So that's this right here, the marsh. Right? So this right here, this line, that's the symbol for land. Right? So that's ta. So land, sha, su. Land of the shasu. Right? So land of the shasu. Shasu of who? Look at what the English transliteration says, by the way, exactly what I said to him. Theophoric, only capturing 3 letters. Yod, He, Wav. So we know that that's a theophoric mention because the Creator's full name is Yod, He, Wav, He. So the 2 double reed leaves is a Yod. This is a H, that's a O, and that's a U. So together you have Yahoo. So they're attempting to capture the full spelling, but what they're capturing is the theophoric pronunciation, which is Yahoo. That's why this always reads the Shasu of Yahoo. Scholars later, knowing who they're trying to say, scholars later say Yahweh. But the Medu Neter says Yahoo, the land of the Shasu of Yahoo. And the Yahoo is a theophoric mention because it's referring to the children of Israel. It's not using the whole name. And done on that.
Oh, praise to the Most High.
Hey, that was a bar though. The Yahoo of the Shashu of the Yahoo. That was a bar. That might be my next album.
we got to start acquiring more skill sets, man. They got to be some from among us. In our community, I see that people are learning Greek. I see people are learning Hebrew, whether it's Lashawan Qadash through Paleo or modern script through biblical Hebrew. I see people doing Aramaic. Why are people not doing cuneiform in our community? I know of one community doing that. That's Paradigm. And they don't consider themselves part of our community. They try to critique our whole community. They think they're better than everybody, right? That's a group called Paradigm. Nobody's doing Medu Neter. And we have to, because there's a great deal of evidence of our people being in Egypt that can only be uncovered in reading those glyphs. Not everything on the ground in terms of artifacts is revelatory of us being there. So that means at some point, if we're not reading inscriptions, we never come to the conclusion that we're right there. And I could tell you this, I've been to the Metropolitan Museum of Art here in New York City over 1,000 times. After being there about 500 times, I started learning Medu Neter, only to realize a particular exhibit I always used to walk past said in clear day right in the Medu Neter, the Habiru, the Hebrews. And it was showing us working and performing labor in the field. We were pressing wine grapes. So if anybody goes online right now and types in the Habiru, pressing wine grapes in Egypt, you'll be able to see a scenery of black, dark-skinned Hebrews pressing grapes and making wine. This is part of their labor field performance. Remember what Exodus 1 says. Everybody likes to think about our enslavement like we built pyramids and we built Ptolemy and Ramses. Everybody forgets the line under that says, and all kinds of labor in the fields. Reading in the Medu Neter allowed me to see literally the name Habiru, the Hebrews, right there in the museum as captured in Egypt.
Damn.
So without learning that language, we wouldn't have seen that.
What Jabari say about that?
Nothing, because Jabari don't read Medu Neter.
Why would this? I don't know. I was not a long-winded question. Why would the Egyptians refer to us as? Are they referring to us as the people of Yahoo, or is that what they're calling God? Or if so, why are they shortening God's name?
Good point. So that's a unique marker by that time in history. The Soleb inscription is around the time of Pharaoh Shoshenq or Shishak. Mm-hmm. That Pharaoh that has that name, I think that's in the book of 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. So in that time period, our worship of the Creator is more widespread and more widely known. So because people are equating our religious practice, quote unquote, because I say quote unquote because we don't like to use the term religious in Israelite community. People are beginning at that point in history to equate our religious practice with the name of our God because it's known. So because it's becoming widespread and known, and this is mostly because of Edomites converting, Edomites are also called Shasu of Yahweh in certain inscriptions too, if I could be brutally honest. I'm not going to hide that. You can find inscriptions that are talking about Edomites, and they're also being called the Shasu of Yahweh because at a certain junctions, who does Edom come from? That's also Isaac's son. So who did he originally worship? The Creator. So there's a worship of the Creator among them too. They just are wicked people. So my point now is, at that point in history, the worship of our God, the name of our God, is actually becoming more widely known. So we're moving from designations of being called Habiru into more specific designations that capture us. I say that because the term Habiru can be applied to people in Mesopotamia. It's describing people in Mesopotamia even before Abraham comes into the land of Canaan. Even before Abraham is born, the term Habiru is already being used in Mesopotamia. Egyptians only begin using it when we come into Egypt, but Mesopotamians are using it before Abraham is born, which means the term Habiru is not just reflective of us. It can reflect a lot of people from a very specific region. So after a while, nations are trying to find names that uniquely capture us. And the term Shasu of Yahweh or the term Shasu of Yahoo, that specifically defines us. Gotcha.
Okay. All praises to the Most High. All right, then it's been 3 hours. We had the brother bless us for 3 hours. So I definitely want to go back and research a lot of the information that he said. I hope y'all do as well. We want to encourage brothers to, do research, fact check things, know that what you're believing is true because of not just somebody telling it to you, but now you've researched it. Now you know it's true. You can, each reach one, teach one, or so as
study to show yourself approved.
Yep. So all praise the Most High. We're gonna Unless
We're
you're
gonna stay on. We're gonna stay on with Zion Lex for a second, just so we can go over the proper pronunciation of divine name from his perspective. We love y'all. We'll be here for a part 2 early next week, Lord willing, midweek next week, so you guys can come on here and get out. And don't be scared. You see, the brother is not finna choke y'all out. He gonna meet y'all at the same energy you meet him with. So come on here and ask your questions, give some pushback, keep it respectful, and let's just have these conversations.
Yeah.
All right. So peace, blessings, and love to everybody. We out. Shalom. Torah. Oh, they're gonna be mad. They're gonna be mad that I said Torah. Baruch.